All right, thank you all for being here. We'll call this meeting to order tonight at 6 p.m. on Thursday, November 13th. And we are very excited to first welcome tonight for our Pledge of Allegiance. We have a guest speaker of Miss Kira Little. If you'd be willing to come up, Kira, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone could please stand. Whenever you're ready, Kira. Pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Round of applause for Kira, everybody. And then before we go into roll call, we also have a special treat with us. We are here, a number of people here tonight for a proclamation acknowledging Native American Heritage Month. And we are have the joy of welcoming Krista Armenta Bellum, who is looking to lead us in an opening blessing tonight. Thank you very much for being here.
No alequel. Kakinalan echaksi na echakikuku. Kakinalan ipi echashup. Keskenen apkilik akiwotwot ashiposhonen. Asiyoyoniyu ikuku. Akiushkal akishumawish. Kiesken astroho hakiatuk han nokinaten kaliwish anitoyush kayuwuten akikuku akachi. Kiesken apnukumiyu akikiiskon asi ushkalish akisik aliyan na noki sunawon imam ashishish alishalish akikuku. Kiak Shakina Hechaksi Kunik Yel a Piaktina Kiakip Makutiwush Shal Shalish Ashumawish Ha'atushwan. Creator, great maker, thank you for this day. Thank you for these people and thank you for this land. We ask you to watch over our leaders so that they can help our people to be strong and well. We ask for good heart so that we'll be able to walk with power, to be able to have great endurance. We ask that you bring our families the strength of our ancestors and that we stand in the prayers of our people. We give thanks this day for all that have come. I end with prayers of healing and power.
Thank you very much for bringing that to tonight's council meeting. Right, if we could then do roll call, please.
Sure. Councilmember Hornick.
Here.
Councilmember Mead. Here. Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Lewis. Here. And Mayor Silva.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Vice Mayor Lewis is appearing under a provision of the Brown Act that allows remote participation in cases of just cause. The just cause tonight is a contagious illness that's been going around the community. And so in light of the illness, the Vice Mayor asked to appear remotely. No additional action needs to be taken, but if any member of the public desires to appear remotely, there is a link on the screen, the video screen. So if you're watching at home and you'd rather appear via Zoom as the Vice Mayor is, you certainly are welcome to do so. Thank you, sir. I'm finished.
And thank you very much, Vice Mayor Lewis, for not bringing the contagious illness to our council chambers tonight. We really appreciate it.
I thought you might.
Is there any reordering of the agenda tonight?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Couple of items. First of all, for anyone who may be here for item number 5, that will take place in its normal location. And item number 5 is the ordinance pertaining to hotel motel operations. That will be continued this evening. The anticipation is it will be continued to a date uncertain, so there won't be any discussion on that. And so there would be no need to stick around for that one. Otherwise, the reordering we have tonight is to move item 8, which is a business item, to occur before the public hearing at number 6. And that just has to do with the subject matter and the feeling that the City Council may do better with some context before, which would be discussed in item 8 as opposed to taking item 6 without that.
Okay, thank you very much. So it will go from 5, 8, 6 to confirm, correct? Okay, perfect. Next up, we'll move on to public comment, which is for items not on the agenda. And we have 3 speaker slips tonight. Each speaker slip will have 3 minutes to have be able to speak with the council here. And so first up, we have Mr. John Dorwin.
John Dorwin, 104 Six Flags Circle. I provided each of the council members and the staff with a packet, including the joint exercise powers of agreement from 1993 and the correspondence relating to that agreement in 1999. And then the final item is a color photograph of the flood in 1993, January 9th, which is the most recent flood event for Zaca Creek. I think it's appropriate that we're experiencing an atmospheric river, and we should consider the city's situation with respect to Zaca Creek and the major flood threat that it poses to our community. Our research with members of the county flood control district is that the current joint exercise powers agreement is not operative, and they are not cooperating with the city as to the terms and conditions of the agreement. We think this is a serious situation given the reports that have been made to the Regional Water Quality Control Board as to the status of our stormwater ordinance and the stormwater ordinance enforcement. The atmospheric rivers are becoming more and more serious. They're visiting serious harm upon the Central Coast communities. And we think the city needs to get back engaged with flood control about who is supposed to be doing what on Zaca Creek, because the map we're looking at is flood control does not have easements throughout our community. It's a disjointed and disorganized system. And the current stormwater ordinance by the city since the events of 1993, which put the golf course underwater, as well as significant portions of Rancho de Marie, is not being enforced. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Mr. Kevin Little.
Hello, thank you for your time. I'm here today in regards to my relationship with the Buellton Community Garden. I am a community gardener, and I've been involved with the Buellton Community Garden since almost the beginning. And I had very unpleasant circumstances with regards to the garden. So much so that I felt I have been individually harassed and targeted for personal reasons and otherwise. So I've specified my specific concerns in writing, and I've submitted that to the city. So I would please request that all the city council members and the public at large make a request with the city and review my specific allegations themselves to make your own determination. But at this point, I'm asking that the city council consider the Buellton Community Garden as an organization to be hostile to the interests of Buellton's community gardeners. And I would request that at the next city council meeting, we have something specific on the agenda to address my concerns and the concerns of other community gardeners. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. And then final comment we have is from Lisa Palmer.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm Lisa Palmer. I'm here in my capacity with the San Ynez Valley Community Aquatics Foundation. I was here 3 weeks ago, and this council voted unanimously to approve $450,000 for the pool project, which we are grateful for. You also offered a challenge to the city of Solvang to up the ante. I'm here to report tonight that on Monday they did just that. So their total commitment comes to $500,000 now. So thank you for creating additional momentum and confidence for the community in both cities' commitments to this project. So we look forward to your council now taking action to add your additional 50,000, which will bring both cities' commitments to $1 million, which is a significant investment for which we're grateful. So I just wanted to come and give you the news and ask that if possible, that you take action prior to the end of this year. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the City of Solvang for keeping up with us. We appreciate that. All right, moving along, we'll move on to the consent calendar tonight. Items include minutes of October 23rd, 2025, regular City Council meeting, list of claims to be approved and ratified for payment to date for fiscal year 25-26, and financial report for the fourth quarter ending June 30th, 2025. Would any items like to be pulled, or is anyone willing to make a motion at this time for approval?
I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Perfect.
Okay, Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilmember Mead.
Aye.
Councilmember Hornick.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lewis.
Aye.
And Mayor Silva.
Aye. All right, moving along, we'll move on to our presentation tonight. In our proclamation recognizing National Native American Heritage Month, and I do believe in the audience we have a few people who were wanting to say a few words. Okay, don't make a liar out of me right now. So, okay, if you could just introduce yourself and then
Yeah, Chris Stevenson. I'm from the reservation. I just want to say thank you, and it's a big honor to be able to be here and receive this, and hopefully to work in partnership with the city of Buellton. I know we were helped with the Buellton Rotary at one point in time to put on a wellness event over here down at the park. Our first one, we had, about 200-300 people show up. And so for a last minute situation, it was amazing. And then we had yourself show up, to the skate day. And for me, it was nice because we were able to share our cultural way of healing with the public. It was always explained to me that, certain things have been given to Native Americans, ways of healing, ways of living, ways of being, but they were given to us to share, and they were given us to share with the public. Now you guys have given us the opportunity to share that. So thank you.
thank you very much. And just for the minutes, could you give your name, please?
Chris Stevenson.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. And then I think we had one other speaker willing tonight, or maybe more than one.
Haku, and thank you very much for having us here today. As you can see, we have a great support team behind Chris and his Circle of Hope. And it's with that I just want to say thank you to the City Council for allowing us to be here. And it's a neighbor time in our tough community that we're in lately. Thank you for the proclamation honoring the displays of flags on the Avenue of the Flags. This recognition means a great deal to our community, and it reflects our shared respect, remembrance, and pride. We are grateful for your support in upholding this meaningful tradition, and continues to stand as a symbol of unity and appreciation. In our language, we say kakinash. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right. Then I'll go ahead and read our proclamation tonight. So, proclamation recognizing National Native American Heritage Month. Whereas it is an honor to be gathered here today to celebrate Native American Heritage Month, we come together with our Chumash people and many other Native communities who have traveled from near and far to share in this moment of unity and reflection. And whereas Native people were the first curators and stewards of the land, and to this day, that sacred responsibility remains at the heart of their purpose. Their deep connection to the earth continues to guide how we care for and respect the world around us. And whereas the Chumash people continually bring enrichment to our communities through their culture, spiritual healings, and traditional ways, their presence and teachings remind us of the importance of balance, respect, and gratitude. And whereas throughout the year, the Chumash and other Native communities celebrate multiple cultural events beginning in September and continuing well into the new year. These celebrations honor their traditions, strengthen community bonds, and keep their heritage alive for future generations. And whereas we also want to recognize the Circle of Hope, a program of the San Ynez Tribal Health Clinic which we were recently introduced to and had the pleasure of meeting. This program extends beyond serving Native people. It actively engages with local schools and community agencies to support youth outreach and promote wellness for all. And whereas today, as we honor Native American Heritage Month, we celebrate the enduring spirit, wisdom, and contributions of Native peoples, past, present, and future. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor David Silva, do hereby proclaim November 2025 as National Native American Heritage Month in the city of Buellton, and ask all residents to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities, and to learn more about the indigenous tribes who lived in this region. Presented this 13th day of November 2025. Thank you for bringing us together tonight. So in the past, we have done this where we've invited whoever has received the proclamation to come up, but you outnumber us quite a bit and it's a little bit crowded up here. So we can either try to fit everyone up here, or it might be easier to have the council go join within the audience so we can get a group photo of all of us together. So if you're all willing, we'll take a quick little recess here so that we can get photos taken properly, and then invite anyone who'd like to with the proclamation with the seal as well. But let's make sure that we celebrate and honor you guys being with us tonight. We are so lucky to have so many people in this community willing to engage on a rainy Thursday evening. So we'll take a quick recess and get those photos taken care of. So thank you all for being here. All right, we'll bring us all back. Everyone okay? Or
You want to slide over one?
okay, we'll hold off on bringing us back just for a moment. We will bring us back the longest 5-minute recess we've had in a while, but thank you all. We know how to clear out a room. So moving from next time will be public hearing item number 5, continuance of public hearing for ordinance number 25-06, ordinance number. Can we just leave it at that? Since it's
Yes.
continuance. Okay, great. And then staff contact City Manager Scott Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. As I mentioned earlier, this particular item was continued to tonight as a date certain continuance from our prior meeting in October, the October 23rd meeting. We were waiting at the time for a response from the State Department of Housing and Community Development regarding an issue regarding a complaint which had been filed pertaining to this particular ordinance. Staff had met with HCD prior to last meeting. We had not received responses. To date, we still have not received a response from them. And given the importance of HCD's perception of this ordinance, we felt it appropriate to continue it to a date uncertain. We'll wait until we receive notification from HCD one way or the other. And assuming it's okay to move forward, we will renotice the hearing probably for sometime in January.
Okay, thank you very much. And then with the reordering, we will now move to item number 8.
We do need a vote.
Okay. So we need a motion to.
Motion to continue to a date uncertain.
Okay, do I have a motion for that?
I would make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion from John, and was that a second for you, Vice Mayor Lewis?
Yeah, I'll second.
Sorry, a motion from Councilmember Sanchez with a Vice Mayor.
Okay.
As I stated before that, I'm going to recuse myself on this.
Perfectly fine. Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lewis,
Aye.
Councilmember Hornick,
Recused.
let's see, Councilmember Mead,
Aye.
and Mayor Silva.
Aye. Okay, so then we will move that and the notice will go out according to the procedures that was just listed by the city manager. So then moving to item number 8, which is the deep dive on tree policies, procedures, and city ordinance information. And that will be our staff contact planning director, Andrea Kiefer.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Silva and members of City Council. City Council recently directed staff to return with a discussion on the existing tree-related policies, programs, and procedures and ordinance governing the city of Buellton. So this agenda item includes a broad overview of the documents which address tree usage in the city. We did provide detailed text from the various city documents as attachments to the staff report. I don't intend to cover all of the details in those documents, but rather just give a general overview of staff's findings and observations as it pertains to the existing tree policy in the city. So in terms of existing policy documents, there are 5 locations where you will find city policy that address trees in some way. Some of them are very general and broadly cover trees, and some provide a little more detail and objectivity. So I'll just kind of briefly give an overview of each. So the first is the city's approved tree planting list. So we do have an approved tree planting list. This list was developed in coordination some time ago, several years back. We coordinated with some local landscape professionals and also through a review of documentation related to the climate zone that we are in, which is zone 15. So basically climate zones describe the types of trees and other vegetation that is appropriate for a particular area throughout the state. They identify zones. The approved tree planting list is typically used for development projects or other tree planting efforts within the city when determining which trees to select for that particular project. So a copy of that list was included in your packet. The next document is the 2025 general plan. So the current general plan, not the one we are currently working on. This document addresses trees very broadly for the most part and is mostly a visionary document as opposed to more regulatory, which is the municipal code. Tree policy is mostly discussed regarding native tree protection, as well as resource conservation and scenic resources. Although the document is pretty broad and doesn't really discuss it in that much detail. The next document would be the Avenue of Flag specific plan. This also broadly discusses trees, but also does provide a bit of specificity in terms of the species of street trees that the city would like to be planted along the avenue, and does further break it down into median trees, bulb-out trees, and things like that, with the goal of giving the avenue a unified and cohesive look. We do have images as one of the attachments of these trees provided within the document. The next would be the Buellton Municipal Code. The Municipal Code does address trees in several different sections. And the goal of the Municipal Code is typically more regulatory with the goal of implementing the visions of the general plan. So the Municipal Code broadly touches on the tree requirements for landscape plans, also regulations pertaining to street trees and their watering, et cetera. But I'd say perhaps the most robust section is the Buellton Municipal Code regarding the native tree protection ordinance, basically. This section details the types of trees, their sizes that are protected from removal. It also includes certain details on certain circumstances when they may be removed, the process for doing that, and replacement standards. The native tree protection ordinance, I will note, only applies to oak, sycamore, and cottonwood trees in the city. So lastly, the community design guidelines is another document that you will find tree policy. This document provides guidance regarding trees, most specifically applicable to private development projects. So these guidelines do provide some objectivity in terms of how much landscaping, including trees, should be planted in developments, where those trees generally should be planted, and the types of trees that should be planted. But this document, sometimes it can be, there's a lot of shoulds, and it's not really, it's a guidelines, they're guidelines. So we do try to get development projects to comply with as many of those guidelines as possible, basically. So just in summary, we do have city documents that include information and guidance regarding trees. Overall, it is somewhat limited in scope and detail as it is written. It also is sort of, in many different places. So, you have to search different documents to find different policies regarding trees. Again, the most detail regarding trees is found in the Native Tree Protection Ordinance, and I'd say the community design guidelines regarding the planting of trees on private property as part of development projects. I've just right now briefly summarize very broadly in details from the, I think, almost 30 pages of text that we pulled from all of our various documents. I have included the full text in your packet. There's a lot of information in there. Hopefully you've had a chance to review it to get a better sense of the details of what's included in there. But I think at this point, I'll just open up the floor to the council for any questions, discussion, and anything, all things trees. So that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much. And just to help for follow along in discussion, I was curious if City Manager Scott Wolf, if you could kind of give context of, we're having the deep dive right now, and then purposely you moved item 6 to that. So could you just let us know what falls under the deep dive conversation we're having and what should be saved for item 6, or how those interact with each other? So greater context following along.
The deep dive discusses what is current city policy or current city law right now. The item number 6, which pertains to the tree ordinance, is proposed additional language to tighten up some of our requirements, particularly with regard to trees on public property, but it also addresses some other issues such as the creation or the codification of the creation of a tree and landscape advisory board, which we've already kind of dealt with, but this puts it in the code specifically. It also addresses the ability to, for the city, if necessary, to either compel the property owner or to step in and do work itself to deal with trees on private property that may be causing obstruction or some other hindrance on public property through a public nuisance type of an approach. So it's a multi-pronged ordinance. It's not terribly long, not terribly detailed, but item 6 is new stuff that we're talking about tonight. Item 8 that you're discussing right now is existing city policy.
If we wanted to further evolve or that with the conversation items, if we wanted to add or change, would that be for item 8 or item 6 most appropriate?
If you wanted to discuss items to be changed at a future point, item 8 would probably be the time to do that.
Okay, so
item
we should
6 would be to address the ordinance that's proposed. Yeah,
perfect. Thank you very much. Sure. All right. So bringing it back to staff for any for the council for any questions of staff. Councilmember Sanchez, any questions for staff?
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Mead.
I'm sorry. Maybe I'm missing something because I haven't been here before, but like, because I wasn't here when this was asked to be brought back to staff. And I was just wondering, what is the purpose of this conversation to create a more centralized, thoughtful landscaping and tree program in addition to the ordinances on here? Like, what was the driving factor for this conversation to begin with?
My understanding was that it was just to open up the discussion to just let the council know, provide the floor for the council to know what is existing and let you guys decide what you'd like to do, if anything.
Councilor Reed, over the course of the past year, we've had a number of items on the agenda brought forward as what we're referring to as deep dive items. One of which had to do with our city's contract with the Sheriff's Department for law enforcement services. We've done a couple of other ones, our Chamber of Commerce and the Visitors Bureau contract. This is just an opportunity to have the city council get a really brief introduction to some of the details they might not otherwise know about a particular topic, and have a discussion that the public can be involved in or the public can view later, so that everyone's kind of aware that these things exist.
Okay, cool. So I guess my other question then is, so I know that we have the Buellton Beautiful Landscape Rebate Program. Where does that fit in with all of this? Is that I know that's part of the green space, but obviously, where does that fit in? Because obviously that's not mentioned in any of these documents.
So the program that we have currently, obviously, yes, it deals with landscaping and plantings and things like that.
It seemed very kind of all over the place.
Yeah. So that program, that program that we currently have in our city evolved from a county program. When I first started with the city, it was basically a grant program that was ran through the county. And then when that went away, the city decided, hey, we actually really like that. We want to continue it. So then we basically evolved that program into our own and set our own standards. So it's not included in here, but it is related to
it. It definitely is, because I looked at it. It's very similar to what all these other things are. Okay, so I guess those are just my only questions. I was just curious about where would that fit in and kind of the purpose of all this altogether.
So most of the documents you've got here, pretty much all the documents that are listed within the deep dive here are either policy documents or the regulatory documents. The program you're referring to is the implementation of these policies. And so it's not found in any of these documents, but it's the kind of the natural outflow of having these policies in place as we come up with programs to advance them.
Okay.
And that's one of them.
Okay. One last question. So like, if you're a citizen in Buellton, like how would you know that you're supposed to be looking at these things?
That's a good question. They are buried pretty deep in our,
Okay.
city policies.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious, like, because I was like, if I go to Windmill Nursery, it's not like I can look at a chart. It's like, oh, these are the recommended trees and bushes I should be planting in Buellton if I'm a private homeowner. And I understand on the commercial side, that's much more regulated through planning. But I was more thinking about just like the person who was like, man, I'd love to do something different with my yard, right? Just like a regular citizen.
Yeah.
So, okay, I just was curious. Okay, so thank you.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Is our approved planting list posted on the city's?
The approved tree planting list is, yes.
Is planted on,
Yes.
is posted on the city's website.
Correct.
Under the planning department.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it's not something that like, that you might not even, like that never, I'm not gonna lie, it never even occurred to me that we have a list of things that I should be planting in my yard. So-
Most residents in the city would not even occur to them to ask the city what they should be planting.
Yeah, and I think, and I'll just add that, of course, it's available for residents, private homeowners, and commercial developers. I think for the most part, when you have development projects, they're looking for that because that's part of their development, right? But the private homeowner may not be. So.
Yes, yeah. I guess my thought would be like, since this is so not centralized, that it would be nice to have like, kind of like, hey, you're a citizen in Buellton, like here's a one sheet, like here's some information, plus here's the rebate program. You can kind of just a communicative piece, that's all. So, and obviously with all the beautiful press that the 1,000 Trees initiative is getting, like I feel like people are starting to be a lot more aware of that kind of thing here in Buellton, and like that we can jump on that awareness. And I think that would be great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your patience with my questions.
Perfect. Councilmember Hornick?
Yeah, thank you. I had a couple questions. So I was just looking at the canopy covered stuff. So in the landscape design, I'm on page 89 of 122 here. Site landscaping. So let me back up a little bit. My understanding of why this sort of came about was we had questions about canopy coverage requirements for commercial developments and also our parking lot. If we wanted to discuss potentially the idea of requiring the city's own public works to require some kind of canopy coverage. And so I understood that, we were going to do this deep dive. So I see that in the landscape design on this page, I mentioned 89 of 122, we talk about trees to create canopy and shade, especially in parking areas along pedestrian ways. There's also a little, looks like clover bullet point that says canopy trees should be used in parking areas to reduce the impact of large expanses of paving to provide shade and reduce glare and heat buildup. These trees should have 30-foot to 40-foot canopy potential and be sized at 24-inch box or larger at the time of installation. That's under parking lot planting. So is this, these are just general guidelines or something that we?
Yeah, so they're general guidelines. They're not, codified as in what like they would, like some things in the municipal code. And typically, it depends on the development project that comes in, and there's a bunch of different guidelines. So a lot of times what happens is a private development project will come in and that will say, hey, you put together your landscape plan and here's our community design guidelines. And they put as much as they can and we talk with them, but they're not going to, obviously something like this is something we would point to for them. Right. But there's nothing, they're guidelines, so they try to comply with as many as they can, dependent and specific to their private development project.
Okay. So that kind of, all my questions kind of tie into each other. So let's keep going. So we currently have no requirement to provide some canopy coverage. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a guide. I mean, it's a guideline. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So like if I was on planning commission and I had a development come through, staff report might say something like it's the guidelines suggest canopy coverage, but
right.
They're, whatever. Right. And then it's not required. The planning commission wouldn't necessarily have to vote no on that issue because there's no canopy coverage.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there are standards for a certain percentage of the landscaping should be trees. It's somewhere in here, but there's nothing that says you have to have this much canopy cover or, for this type of project or this. Yeah, there's nothing like that.
And then in the exemptions we have under definitions, we have exemptions for our native tree list is sycamore. Sycamore is defined as this broadleaf tree, et cetera. Was there any consideration, and I see Eva Powers in the audience tonight, maybe she can throw something at me if I'm wildly off mark here, but so London plane trees are commonly confused with sycamores. The way we have sycamores defined is pretty broad. It seems like London plane tree might fit that bill quite exactly. Is that intentional? Do we want to talk about that at all?
You know, the definitions under this ordinance, as far as I could tell, were put together years ago. So I really don't know what the intention, I can't speak to, the intention of how it was defined, but, that is something that we could.
Right.
What page is that definition on? I'm sorry. Valley Oak. I'm not seeing.
So if you go down to page
California. Yeah, I see it. Okay. The definition that's given here for California sycamore, the Platanus racemosa, London plane tree is a different type of Platanus, I believe. Is that no, but it's not native, but it is the same genus. That's why they look very similar. The reason that this is identified here in the municipal code is because this is part of our city's native tree protection ordinance. So we would want to, the city has taken action to actively protect 3 native species, essentially, oak, sycamores, and cottonwoods. The London plane tree, while it's very similar and it may look the same or may look similar and it may do just as well here, isn't protected under this ordinance because it's not a native tree.
Gotcha. That kind of ties into my my next question though about enforcement and protection, right? So under 12.32.060 on page 81, quickly moving to 82, we talk about all protected trees shall be protected from existing and future development activities to the maximum extent possible. What does that really mean?
So I think, just to kind of give a real world example of like a development project, right? So you could have a pretty large oak in the center of a vacant property, right? And somebody wants to come develop that property, that they own the property, they want to develop it. We would encourage them to develop around that, to build their building around that, to protect and preserve that tree. But if they can't, if it's not feasible, economically feasible or otherwise, that's where the native tree protection ordinance would kick in, and they have to have very specific reasons to remove a tree, and they have to replace them under very particular circumstances. So it is broad. It's pretty subjective. There's not a lot of objectivity to it. I will say that, but
and it leaves the determination as to what's appropriate or what is feasible to the decision-making body, which in most cases is going to wind up being the planning commission.
Right.
So the planning commission has to sit as a body and determine, is this feasible to preserve this tree, or in the case of this project, is it just not possible to redesign the project to
yes, for private developments.
Yes.
But also for city actions, right? So under C on page 82, we have the planning director may authorize removal of protected trees under one or more of the following conditions. So I'm thinking of this through the lens of, we had to remove a certain amount of London plane trees and sycamores in Rancho de Maria due to utility water main concerns. So, the argument is, we understand that those trees have to come out, but we're going to protect them to what extent, right? And then, the city probably doesn't want to be on the hook for, moving a water line as opposed to removing a tree, but I would like to open it up to discussion of the possibility of some mitigating factor, some mitigating measure there, because, those trees, I think, are a public resource. They take 40 years to get as large as they have. That I wanted to consider that as part of the discussion.
And we can certainly do that in a future update to our municipal code, and it wouldn't probably be within this particular section because this deals with the native trees. We would have to look at it in some other section of the code. Right now, that determination will be made by the city council. The situation that you're referring to, where we had trees on either public or private property within Rancho de Maria neighborhood removed in order to accommodate or preserve our city's water system. That's a policy call that's going to be made by the city council because you've got to determine what is of more community benefit, the trees being in one place or the integrity of the infrastructure, and how much are you willing to how much
Invest.
how much of a cost are you willing to absorb to retain those trees as opposed to
Of course.
protect the infrastructure. Yeah.
So, but I just want to make sure that it does come to city council, right? Is there a way to make sure that occurs?
Well, again, this particular section here only deals with the natives. If you would like, when the planning department will be looking at comprehensive updates to the municipal code to include, primarily the zoning code.
Primarily zoning, but there's going to be some overlap.
When we do that, we can certainly include that discussion, or if the council would like to see that brought forward more quickly, we can put that into the lineup of things.
For sure. I mean, it's right in line with item 6, right? Like the idea of like the tree advisory board, right? Is that something that they might do? I can save this for later if that's something that they might do. So
yeah, it could be at least the initial discussion, not necessarily dealing with the city's infrastructure, but we
no, but like this be concern maybe.
Yeah.
To the, okay. All right, and then so then the enforcement part of it, right? Like so, if this doesn't occur, right? Like if the trees are damaged and they're not fixed, or they were, if it's a native species, you're supposed to replace them at a certain ratio,
right?
And they're supposed to be a certain distance away from the development. Like what is the enforcement mechanism we have there? I see there's some there's some bonding or something, some financial bond that occurs on some developments, but like.
So I was going to mention, but you mentioned, so obviously if they remove trees, they're going to have to replace them. If somebody removes, say, an oak, right, without unauthorized, we would require them to replace it at a 3-to-1 ratio. And then there is the financial aspect of it through the bond. I'd have to look up the specifics, but there is some financial component to, basically what the recourse is. But yeah, it's replacement and basically a code enforcement action.
Exactly. If the violation is particularly egregious, it would be a violation not only of the city's municipal code, but also their permit conditions. And so there's a number of different approaches that could be taken with that to get their attention and to ensure some consequence there.
Last question. I know you're eager to move on. We did the 50-foot requirement. I think that was the exemption footage for removing a tree. Why 50?
So are you referring to if there's a tree within 50 feet of I'm not sure which page are you looking at?
Exemptions I'm on page 79. Removal of protected trees that are naturally dead or uprooted that are within 50 feet of an existing residential structure or that pose an immediate threat to safety as determined by qualified arborists shall be exempt from the requirements of this chapter. Just wondering where the 50 feet came from.
I do not know where the 50 feet came from, and this has been something that I have wondered myself. My hunch would be that it was at the time probably related to a safety concern. There's a tree that poses a safety. They don't want it to fall on the house, kind of a thing would be my guess.
The last thing. I mean, we have big houses and small lots in Buellton. 50 feet would be clear and 2 acres down for me. So I was wondering if we could consider revisiting that.
We could, again, depending upon the tree species we're talking about here, I think certainly the oaks, certainly the sycamore, and I would assume we could have some cottonwoods that could have tree canopies, the drip line that would extend maybe not all the way to 50 feet out, but certainly pretty large. And particularly with the oaks, we look at the root structure is extending out even past that drip line in some cases. So 50 feet from a home, from a residential structure, could very well have been to protect that residential structure from root intrusion or something of that nature. That the place I'd come from had a number of problems with tree roots lifting foundations of houses up because they were just built too close. So, I'm not.
There should be some determination made there, though, right? I mean, like you could take a 50 feet or a drip line 50 feet from the house. That's pretty.
That again, it's based on the circumstances.
And I will say that part of if somebody comes to the planning department and is requesting to remove an oak or for whatever reason, typically what we require is them to get a letter from a qualified arborist explaining the reason for the need to remove the tree coming from the professional. So.
And actually, in this case, no, there is a 50-foot exemption, the way
Right.
it's written, so.
So that's my concern.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, we can look at amending that at a future time here.
Right. I mean, it could make sense that even regardless of what, maybe it's not an exemption, maybe we always have a qualified, or I don't know, we could look at.
I mean, it could be
different
like that it
strategies.
poses a threat or something. It could be,
Mhm.
you know, just rational language. I just, I just don't like the fact that if it's within 50 feet of an existing structure, as determined by a qualified arborist, that's 50 feet. It gets exempt from protection status. That's all I got on my questions.
Questions.
Yes.
Questions.
Yes.
Quote questions here. Vice Mayor Lewis, any questions for staff at this moment?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. I just had a couple. One is, it seems really decentralized, as you mentioned.
Yes.
Would centralization, or is it the opinion of the staff, like, let's say we did work to centralize this and creation of objective standards, not just from an implementation standpoint, but that would help with streamlining of process. Like, has that been cumbersome for planning department to deal with this implementation?
I think so. And I think, like I mentioned that, like particularly in our community design guidelines, they're kind of buried down there and then they're kind of decentralized, as you mentioned. So I think that, obviously with the increased focus and importance of preserving trees, wanting to plant more trees in the city, if we found a more prominent location or centralized it in some way, I think it would make it more apparent to our developers and our community members that that is an important aspect of their development. And we do want to, focus on that. I think it would, and it would sort of send that message to them, and then it would make it easier, I think, on staff to have some sort of either objective standards or centralized location for all things trees.
Perfect. And then the other one is that usually when discussing kind of these ecological ordinances and things, I know we talk a lot about trees and then it's kind of like, and plants. I just was curious, is there anything about plants or is it all just trees?
There are we have landscaping requirements, right? Like in terms of like, this percentage of your lot shall be landscaped. But there's not a whole lot of detail of what that looks like, what types of plant, like there's not much about specific to native plants. It's more based upon water usage as opposed to what types of plants you're using. Okay. So not much on that.
And then finally, sometimes when you have a tree ordinance or things like that, there's like dark skies ordinances are attached to that or things of that sort too. Is that anything that we have, or is there, that wasn't referenced, but do we have anything like that?
Yeah, so actually staff has been working on an outdoor night sky friendly dark sky ordinance. And we are prepared to bring that draft to the Planning Commission and the council the beginning of this coming year. So we've been working on it, and something that we've been working on for a little while. So
good. Thank you. All right. Do we have any public comment at this time?
We do not.
Okay, we'll bring it back to council for discussion. And this is kind of going to be it's a very loose guidance right now. It's really, I think this is more of a discussion of what would the council get consensus around to give to staff about what we'd like to see, if any changes, any additions, and have it be brought back at a future time. But really, you're looking for staff direction on if we want any changes and what those changes would be or additions. Is that correct?
Yes, there's no action required. This is more of an informational item. But certainly if the council has some things they'd like to see revisited in the future, if we can get consensus on that, we'll bring that back.
Okay. Since we can't see, could we maybe bring it back since we can't see Vice Mayor Lewis? And so that might help us for keeping track if she tries to jump in.
There we go.
We still cannot see her on the screen.
That's interesting. Hold on. Give it a second. The share is done, so it should be popped up on that screen.
Well, as we do, while the city manager works, at least Vice Mayor Lewis, if you could just yell to get attention for us while we try to see if we can get you to gesture, and I'll keep trying to check, and everyone can leave little pregnated pauses to see if she can jump in there.
No worries. I'm good at interrupting if need be.
Okay. Hold on.
The joys of being a mother, you know how to jump in.
Exactly.
So I guess starting with, why don't we, Councilmember Hornick, why don't we have you start, since I feel like you have plenty of the things to help.
Oh, sure.
Guide this conversation.
Two things really. So I liked Mayor Silva's idea of centralizing the information. I think that would go a long way in helping people understand it's an important priority for the city. I also would really like to see if we could, or staff to bring back for discussion, the idea of some sort of canopy requirement, especially for parking lots. And I would like that to apply to both, city city developments and private developments. That's really it.
Okay. Councilmember Sanchez, anything that you want to add?
No.
Okay. Councilmember Mead.
I would just say that if we're going to create like a centralized document, I want it to include like, it should be like a landscaping document, and then kind of everything gets defined, because the tree list does also have shrubs on it. So that idea of like we can go big picture to small picture. It's like maybe we have a landscaping document, and in that landscaping document, there's tree requirements, bush requirements, commercial requirements, like, so that way if someone's like, when someone walks in and they're like, hey, I'm changing my landscaping, it's a very easy document to kind of delineate out. So instead of having all these like little pieces about trees and then maybe little pieces about bushes or plants, it's kind of like all together. So centralized, but broader picture maybe also, and all the things that you said too. Yeah.
I don't think we have any requirements.
Let's find out.
People have, I mean, people want to do what they want with it. Then we can't require them to have, we can request they have trees, or
Well, we can make
be
that
nice to
private
have
too.
trees, but to require somebody.
Well, I think it's more
some
too
people
that,
don't like trees.
right, well, if someone's doing their landscaping, that we can, there's a list of suggested landscaping, bushes and trees, and if they, approved ones, and then if they follow that, then they actually qualify for the landscaping rebate, which like to me is like economically great for the citizens. So like that idea of how do we incentivize these kind of things is also, and how do we communicate that incentivization, right? Like if it's all part of the same document, like, hey, here's the land, these are all our things, and BT Dubs, if you do this, you might qualify for a rebate. That'd be great. Like,
Did we get BT Dubs on the record there?
absolutely. I mean, that's
Let the minutes show BT Dubs.
exactly. But like,
Personal preference. Everybody wants something different.
yeah, and which is fine. But if they do what's suggested and they can get a rebate, hopefully they're happier, and we're happy too.
Yeah, but so just to be clear though, you were saying there's no requirement, and you were clarifying, you're right. This is just, we have a suggested native tree list and shrub. Would like to steer that toward also including shrubs and other small shrubbery.
And
Trees we like.
if someone like if the council decides like requirements are necessary, like I feel like that would be we can also have that conversation. Like if we want to have certain requirements and make some of these things less subjective, we can have that conversation. I don't have anything that I'm particularly like, I need to see this right now. But maybe someone will bring up something that I'm like, oh, wow, that's great. Maybe we should make that a requirement versus like all that suggested should language. But that's not something that I'm prepared to like, I don't have an opinion about that right now.
Cool. I did say this in my prior questioning, but the 50-foot thing I would like to revisit too.
And Vice Mayor Lewis, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'm not like, I have no problem with the suggested list and trying to help, guide people and steer them to what would be helpful and also what would, qualify for a rebate. But I'm kind of opposed to any leaning towards like, these are required. But I also kind of want to review the 50-foot thing too. So I'm happy to expand our suggestions and to help work on communication and getting that out there. But I would like to lean away from telling people what they should do or like what's required, if that makes sense.
I think also separating out, there's future developments and guidelines and things, which I think is a little bit more easy to apply objective standards and requirements. It's like, if we want to move forward with these things, I think of a lot of it as being like, let's create objective standards that makes it easy for developers and future things to come in to ensure that we're kind of showcasing these values. And it's a lot more easy to ask a developer, like, when you're making your plans, have these required objective standards. I think then to the point of creating an accessible and even financially compelling adoption for those who already have their landscaping in place, it's easier to do with people who are already here, a carrot, and then do requirements for new development coming in to ensure that that's kind of leading the way with it. So I think that integrating that both sides of that discussion, I think we should really look at closing some of the subjective conversations for development coming into the city. I think that it's really, the Planning Commission has a space to do some interpretations, but if the code is inherently written to be gray, it doesn't provide a lot of guidance. And I think it would be good for developers to have an idea of this is much more in compliance and kind of shrink down the will this, won't this get through. And I don't love the fact that it's like, well, should, leads to, I don't need to. I mean, it's, I should exercise every day, but if I was what I had to exercise every day, I actually would. And so I just think that if we are looking for future developments coming in, that's a good place to start putting some of these objective standards. I would also like to, beating this conversation, but I really think we need to have, if we have a native tree, we need to have a native plant element to it. And I think that those design and objective standards for landscaping should be something we look at. This is a bigger conversation that requires a lot of update. I'm sure there will be a lot of planning, commission, and dialogue, but I'd say the council seems like it's about moving into how do we update things that have been around
Since incorporation and prior.
Yeah, I would say it'd probably be a good, like, my biggest guidance is like, let's have the staff bring through and we'll have the planning commission kind of take this on of what would it look like to actually have, with 35 new years of functioning information, what would be a thoughtful way to update some of these codes and make that more succinct for us? Because also, I would never be able to navigate this. And in some ways, if you can't navigate, it's like, I just don't care. And then you just get like eucalyptus planted everywhere and everyone knows what.
This is the perfect time to do just that, because we are updating the general plan. We are looking at, municipal code or zoning code primarily update. So we would probably be doing this exercise as part of that anyway. But prioritizing it now, I think is a good thing, and it's a good time to do it. So,
and just to be clear, it's not that we're adopting anything at this moment. We're just giving direction to staff to explore this and bring back for a future conversation. And that may not come to us first. It might go through the planning commission for this. It will absolutely go through the planning commission. Okay. Is there any?
No, piggyback on that. I also wanted to just say thank you for all that. I agree. But I also want to incorporate into our own construction for public works.
Oh, yeah, I think that I don't think, it feels like everyone on this dais is at least willing to have the conversation of all items brought forth, at least like for future vote on adoption. So I think, yes, let's have it be, if we're going to ask residents and businesses to do so, then the city should also lead the way with that too. So I think it'd be good for us to look at where are those maybe on purpose or inadvertent loopholes that have been plaguing our code. And so let's check and see if we can close some of these loops that need to be closed if we really want to see change in that. So does that give enough staff direction?
Yeah, I think, I think.
Is everyone comfortable with that? At least it'll be brought back at a later date for that. Anything left hanging? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Okay, well then we close out item 8 and then we move into item 6. It's an evening of trees. So ordinance number 25-07, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California, setting policies governing the planting and care of trees on public property and making provisions for the emergency removal of trees on private property under certain conditions, introduction and first reading. With our staff contact City Manager Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. As has been mentioned, this item before you right now addresses a prospective new ordinance to be adopted, which addresses primarily standards and practices for the planting and maintenance of trees on public property, but also has a few other issues at hand. Let me give a little bit of background on this. This particular ordinance is taken from a template that was provided by the National Arbor Day Foundation, I believe, which is the organization which is, I'm sorry?
We're on page
52.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we start on page 52. That's the organization that administers the Tree City USA program. And one of the requirements for the Tree City USA designation is for a city which seeks that designation to have what they refer to as a tree ordinance, an ordinance that deals with the care and maintenance of trees on public property. Our code doesn't have currently that quote tree ordinance. We do have standing policies that essentially mimic everything in here. So there's not a whole lot new coming to the city with this other than putting it in the municipal code. Very quickly, what's happening through this ordinance is first and foremost, a tree and landscape advisory board is officially through the municipal code being established. We had previously done this a year and a half ago when we looked at the planning commission scope. We assigned, I believe by resolution, the the duties of a tree and landscape advisory board to the planning commission. The objective there being to create a body that could address tree and landscape issues, can mediate disputes that come up regarding trees, but that wasn't creating a new Brown Act body for us to have to administer. So we had done that previously by resolution. This ordinance places it in the municipal code. The other thing it does is it establishes landscaping, planting and maintenance standards. If you look at this, it does this by reference to other organizations and what their requirements are, which our landscaping crews that go out, I believe it's in their contract, they're required to adhere to these best management practices and standards of organizations such as the International Society of Arboriculture. So we're not seeing anything really new here. What we're doing is we're putting it in the municipal code so that it's referenced there. There is a prohibition against harming public trees, which to me seems a little redundant because if the trees are on public property, they don't belong to anyone in particular. And if you're going to damage something that doesn't belong to you, that's a problem. This actually gives us a specific municipal code to violate on other than simply vandalism or something like that. And then the last things that this ordinance does is it identifies certain trees to be declared public nuisances. And in particular, we're referring here to trees which exist on private property, which one way or another may cause problems, such as problems with our infrastructure or problems with obstructing sidewalks or streets. Those can be deemed public nuisances, and the city can take action to abate those public nuisances under the authority granted in this ordinance. It's really fairly simple. It's actually a rather short ordinance as these things go. It adds another chapter to our city's municipal code rather than scattering individual provisions of this throughout different sections of the code. We just added one chapter that'll lump it all in here. Should make it a little bit easier. Again, the purpose of this, of us moving in this direction, is to essentially fulfill another requirement for the Tree City USA designation, which this should do. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and I'm sure I've probably talked way too long on this already. So I'm going to stop talking and let you ask questions.
All right, we will bring it back to council for questions at this time, please. So we'll start with Councilmember Hornick, since it's questions at this time.
I have a concern.
Can you say it in the form of a question?
I don't know. In 9.36.030 authority and power, there's delegation of authority and responsibility to the Director of Public Works. As you just mentioned, City Manager Scott Wolf, about removing trees. If we flip back to our prior agenda item, I believe on page 81, we have that a similar authority is delegated to planning director if a protected tree needs to be removed. I just was wondering if there was concern there that those two authorities potentially could conflict.
Not particularly. The native tree ordinance is found within our zoning code. And the planning director is the appropriate authority for that. This ordinance particularly deals with trees on public property, and so the public works director is appropriately the authority there. I would note that in neither case would unless it's a case of an emergency, in neither case would the director of planning or the director of public works be making a determination to take action on a particular tree without involving an expert, an arborist or someone who the city employs to be the expert in that regard. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
So like under 12.32.060 protected native tree preservation and removal standards, page 81 going to 82, subsection B. Protected trees shall not be removed without prior authorized consent from the planning director. Skipping on down. Any authorized or unauthorized protected trees removed shall be replaced pursuant to 12.32.080. Any decision of the planning director may be appealed to the planning commission. So that's a very different authority than the public works director being like, that tree needs to go because it's in the way.
Yes.
But there's no conflict.
There's no conflict. This deals with trees on private property for the most
Only.
part. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, if it's on public property, public trees fall under the authority of the Public Works Director.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think that was all my questions.
Councilmember Mead,
No questions.
Councilmember Sanchez,
No questions.
Vice Mayor Lewis.
No questions.
My only question was, I see here with the certain trees declared a nuisance, that the city may remove such trees at the owner's expense if the owner does not comply with treatment or removal as specified, but it would also be that the city could remove its, I guess my question is like, is there a means of making sure that there's some recovery element that if a city deems a tree to be removed, is there anything to add about replacement of the tree as well? So like if a city deems that we need to remove a tree, is there anything in here that compels us or would allow, like, I just feel like if we have to remove trees, I get that, but shouldn't the city also be held to the standard of replacing any trees that we remove to help offset the loss?
Yeah, that's a matter of policy.
Okay, so
and we would typically, if we have to remove a tree, look at how to replace that.
But this does not require it.
This does not require it. In these particular cases, you're looking at certain trees being declared a nuisance, correct? Both of these provisions are talking about trees on private property that encroach into public property. That then the Public Works Director would be able to say that tree needs to be removed, or work that needs to be done in order to eliminate the nuisance that's being discussed here. So it wouldn't, the city wouldn't necessarily be requiring the replacement of a tree. If we have to remove it, it's going to be very circumstantial. If we have a branch that's overhanging a street and the trash truck keeps hitting it, then we have to, we can contact the property owner. If they're not doing anything about it, we can go out, trim the tree, and send them a bill. There's a process we go through for that. If the tree itself becomes a hazard, if it starts to lean over a piece of property, we can contact the property owner and say, hey, you need to fix this. Or if it's really bad, the Public Works Director can just say, we're going to go out and remove this right now because it could fall on a bus or something. It's going to be very circumstantial how we deal with that. But the removal of the tree in these particular cases, the replacement of a tree is kind of secondary to how we deal with the problem that trees are addressing right now.
I guess my question is just that if the city removes any city trees, do we have a process to require us to replace those?
I don't believe there's anything in here that requires replacement. And we could add something to that effect, but generally speaking, we don't remove trees unless there's a reason to remove it. And if the tree is dying, we can, or dead, we can go in and remove it. We would probably look at replacing it anyway. It may be that the tree is in the wrong location. It's obstructing, view around a corner or something like that, in which case we wouldn't want to remove it. So again, very circumstantial, but if there's something we'd like to consider moving forward here, we can do that.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you for that. Okay. And do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not.
Okay, we'll bring it back to council for discussion and a possible motion. And just to understand what we're seeking tonight, if we so choose, would be to adopt this ordinance, and it's the first reading, but we'd have to go to a second reading, correct?
Yes, so it'll be brought back for second reading at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. So I guess we'll bring back for council discussion if there's any further items that we'd like to discuss, or if not.
Yeah, no, I was going to say you took my thought for comments, applied it to your questions. So I was going to say the same thing, and that Mayor Silva said, but I was wondering while you both were talking if we weren't talking a little bit about two different items, because when I was referring to delegation of authority and responsibility, that was under 9.36.030 subsection A.
Yes.
And I also see under down below, there is the nuisance certain trees, that's 9.36.080. Apparently.
I'm sorry, what
page?
page?
030 is authority and power, and 080 is declared a nuisance. And you were saying that, if this tree is removed, it would be a nuisance, et cetera. I just wanted to point out that the authority and power is given to the Director of Public Works, full authority and responsibility to plant, prune, maintain, and remove trees, right? growing in or upon all municipal streets, right of ways, city parks, and other public property.
Right.
To Mayor Silva's point, yeah, it would be great if, as we discussed in previous agenda item, if the tree advisory board maybe had some input on if there was going to be a systematic removal of some trees that affected potentially water mains or utilities or something like that. I don't see that in this delegation of authority.
It's not, I think, what the circumstance you're referring to would be covered under 9.36080, certain trees being declared a nuisance. It does give the public works director the authority to do that. I think as a matter of course, unless this is a circumstance where an action can't wait, like in the case that you're referring to that happened in Rancho de Maria, where you've got a whole neighborhood full of trees, and how are we going to deal with that? If we had a body such as our Tree and Landscape Advisory Board, at that point, we might have brought this to them and said, okay, let's discuss how we're going to address this. Let's have the Tree and Landscape Advisory Board make a recommendation to the City Council as to how we want to address this. That wasn't an emergent condition. It wasn't an emergency that was demanding immediate attention. It was something that we clearly had time to deal with because I believe we spent well over a year trying to come to a conclusion on it. This kind of falls into the same boat I would put the issue with replanting trees on public property. All of this is a matter of policy, and you as the City Council set the policy. So if we have to remove a tree and your policy, your direction to staff has been, if you remove a tree on public property, you better replace it. And if you're not going to replace it, you need to come and tell us why. And that would.
And that could be that's separate from this ordinance. So
it would be separate from this ordinance. It's just a matter of direction.
Yeah. So I think maybe there's the ordinance conversation, and then there could be this. It's like let's bring that back in this large tree discussion we're having. It sounds like that would be something that the council would like to have brought back as a policy.
If you'd like to codify that, if it's just a matter of direction, you can give us direction at any point. Agendize and give us direction regarding that. So.
Yeah, well, why don't we at least set that as an item that maybe is brought back to explore about codification or whatever that looks like in terms of how intense we want to make that requirement. But let's bring that back as an agenda item so that we can stay on the ordinance. Does that work for everyone?
Works for me.
Okay. Moving along with further discussion on the ordinance at hand. Is there anything else anyone would like to talk about or a possible motion?
I'd like to say thank you to staff for putting this together. I know this is a long time coming. I know that the Green Team and certain members of the public are keen to see this go forward, me being one of them. So thank you for your work on this.
I would move to approve ordinance number 2507, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Buellton setting policies governing the planting and care of trees on public property and making provisions for the emergency removal of trees on private property under certain conditions as an introduction and first reading. Do I have to say that part?
Well, you did, and that sounds good, and I'll second that. Oh, wait, actually, or do you want to be the one to second it? Okay, good. Okay, yes, I'll second that.
Okay, Vice Mayor Lewis.
Aye.
Mayor Silva.
Aye.
Councilmember Hornick.
Aye.
Councilmember Mead.
Aye.
And Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
And so then we'll have the discussion that can be added for brought back the item on the policy and codification, all that. Great. Okay, we made it to council member comments and items. So to our audience members who are still with us, thanks for riding out a long meeting tonight. Okay, so council member comments and items. We'll start out. Why don't we start out with Vice Mayor Lewis tonight, since she's on Zoom, so we can have you get your stuff in. Would you like to start?
Yeah, I actually don't have any major things. I just wanted to extend my gratitude for the Fall Fest. It is always well done, organized. The number of security people, I feel comfortable having my teenagers go and hang out wholly unsupervised. And the younger one loves it, and it doesn't feel unsafe when you're there, even with lots of people, listening to the music and all of the other stuff. So I think they did a nice job, and it was a nice thing for our city to continue to do.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Yeah, I'd just like to say again, just like she did, it was a good time. And it's like a lot of the parents, you'd run into them and you'd ask about their kids, and they'd say they're off having fun. And I was making a comment, you're not afraid of somebody stealing your kids or anything. It was so wholesome. And it was, the whole town should be proud of it. And the Arts and Culture Committee and Andres. And it brought a lot to the town, and everybody I saw was enjoying themselves. So thank everybody involved. I think it was wonderful. Thank you.
Councilmember Me?
I was in the, well, I just wanted to make another comment. I did do the election, and at the election, we have our 4 districts, but there aren't enough people in my district to have a precinct. So the people that live in my district, they have to have 200 voters. Apparently, I don't have 200 voters. I guess I should be happy about that. But anyway, I'll have to work on that if I care enough to get more voters. But it was just funny because since I was working it, everybody that was in my precinct that didn't have a precinct had to vote on the machines or have the mail-in vote. So it was just interesting. I just want to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll just, say thanks about the Fall Fest as well. I think the one nice thing that when we were in town, it's not just the people of Buellton that are enjoying it. There's people here from Santa Maria, from Orchid, all over the valley. And I think the Fall Fest has become one of those things that it's a massive community celebration, but it keeps extending outward and outward. And I think that that's amazing, really. The care that goes into putting it on with the Chamber of Commerce and in Fuego events. I mean, it's massively successful and it's just going to keep growing. And I think that's wonderful for Buellton and all of the people in the valley and going further on. I'd also like to say thank you to the city of Solvang for chipping in for the $50K for the pool. I think that's very exciting. I'm very proud to be on the city council. Basically, I thank you, Mayor Silva, for making that suggestion, because I think that when the cities challenge each other to be better, we are better. And I think that hopefully is a trend that will continue. I'd also like to say, I know this week was Veterans Day, and I know that our meeting is not on Veterans Day today, but I know very many people on this dais, including myself, and a lot of people in the city have veterans and their families. So I just wanted to say thank you to the veterans for all their service publicly at this meeting. And lastly, I actually have a future agenda item I would like to bring to the council. I'd like to discuss a potential partnership with the Santa Barbara County Animal Care Foundation. They would like to work with us to install do-it-yourself or public microchip reader stations in Buellton. These stations would allow residents to find a stray animal to easily scan for a microchip at any time of day, so they wouldn't need to visit a vet clinic or shelter, which quite honestly, we don't have a lot of that here. So it's basically they're available 24/7. And as we know, most animals get lost at night. So often it's hard for people to know what to do with an animal at night. So they're low cost, they're easy to use, they require a minimal footprint, and they can be placed in public areas such as the park, outside City Hall, depending on how many we decide to purchase. And basically the Animal Care Foundation was very excited to partner with us. We would be leading the way of this. Right now they're working with Santa Maria, and we're only like the second city. And so I think that that's really exciting, because I love the idea of Buellton being on the forefront of many things, but especially animal welfare. And I just think because we have so many animal lovers in this city, I think it would be a really great resource for all the animal lovers in this community. So I'm requesting that council would consider bringing that item back for a future discussion. Thank you.
Sounds good to me. I think that'd be a great conversation to have, at least, and see what the cost could look like and how it could help out the community.
You have no problem with that.
Okay, great.
I have another comment. I'm sorry. The other day when we made we're offering more money. I offered $100,000 more than I made it $550,000. And the reason I did that was to make it $1 million when we left last time. So it got kind of overran by the commitment and the camaraderie. It was fun, but I think we should just go ahead and do the other 50 that I asked for, since we're going to match at 50 theoretically. One, is that going to be on an agenda, or is it agendized yet, or is that something that's just going to feed through, or is that going to become another ask, Jay?
No, the 50,000 that was discussed last time and approved last time will come back to the city council at the next meeting. I had intended to place that on the consent calendar because it was really an action that was already taken. We were just looking for confirmation by the council that the requirement you placed on it had been met, and then we could take care of it. If you'd like to come back for something more than that, we would need to agendize that as a different item and put it on as a business item as opposed to a consent calendar item.
And also heard that she's something about having it done before the end of the year. So is that what we would do?
It would be the next meeting, which is the December 11th meeting.
So are you asking to have it brought back as a business item?
And a possibility of doing the 100 so that we would beat them by 50 if we were going to be competitive.
Okay, so why don't we have it be, why don't we have it brought back as a business item so then we can have it be a more fleshed out conversation? Does that work for everyone then?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, great. So bring it back as a business item. Great. And then I think we also have consent for the animal microchipping station. Yes. All right.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Hornick.
Thank you. So a couple of things. I was hoping staff maybe had an update on the 246 skinnying. Is that happening? How's that conversation going with KOA?
We've actually had some correspondence with Caltrans. We received another set, relatively short comments, but from traffic operations. And today, KOA had responded to that. So that's going to be redistributed back to traffic operations. As far as we know, that's the last department that had any comments to us. So we're hopeful that before the end of this year, we'll have direction one way or the other from Caltrans.
On the two options we submitted to them some time ago.
Correct.
Cool.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And Public Works Director Rose Hess, I emailed about this. I wanted to bring it up as well. I asked what the process was for if we were interested. I know I would be interested, but if citizens were interested in installing some speed bumps or rumble strips by their house, in particular by where I live, there's the Zaka preschool, and I think your response was that we don't have an overarching policy on that, and my understanding was that we intentionally don't. We voted to not have a policy, but I just want to be clear, we are looking into traffic calming measures in the Riverview Park area, the Meadow Vista neighborhood. That's underway?
It is something that's on our list. Yes.
Okay, cool. Also, I think you mentioned this in the staff report. It's a farmer's market potentially coming.
Yes, we have not yet had that approved, but we have an application in for a farmer's market, and if approved, we would be looking at that possibly taking place on Avenue of Flags on Monday evenings, starting probably in March.
Avenue of Flags Monday evenings in March, if that goes forward. Awesome. And then I also wanted to talk about the early childhood education initiative that United Way came and spoke to us about some time ago. I was in conversation with Stephen Ortiz of South County United Way. He put together a bit of a proposed plan in order to help alleviate early childhood care concerns that Buellton is having. I sent that to you, Scott. United Way is happy to come back and discuss this. It's kind of timely just because of, as we all are aware, of federal funding cuts. And we had an email from Joni Kelly, Communications Outreach Coordinator for Community Services for Communify, regarding Head Start programs losing funding. I don't want to be a dead horse on this, but it is a well-identified gap in funding between being able to provide for daycare for kids and also getting to work. Market forces will not alone do that. Recommendations from nonprofits and coalition groups suggest looking to your cities, looking to the counties, potentially floating bond measures to somehow cover the gap in paying early childhood educators more money, a livable wage, providing scholarships to the missing middle, and also now the most unfortunate and vulnerable members of us in the Head Start communities, and yeah, providing places for early childhood education to continue. So with all of that said, I would really like to somehow, if we can, get United Way back here and issue their proposal to us in terms of a potential partnership / spend. And so if Mayor Silva and City Manager Scott Wolf would consider putting on the agenda, I'd appreciate that, and I'd let United Way know.
I think it's actually before just council consent for that. So it's, yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea. I think we can invite them back here. So
Yeah, absolutely.
everyone, okay. So we got council consent.
Thank you. One other thing, don't hate me for this, I know you will. It's the e-newsletter. If there's any way we could get more frequency on that, I love it. I love to see it.
Okay. You're right. I hate you for that, but let's see if I can do it.
Thank you.
All good?
That's it.
Okay. Wanted to first take a moment to thank all of our council members who helped facilitate our second round of town halls. Whether you had 15 members or 2 members of the public joining, I really appreciate it. I also want to take a moment to thank Councilmember Hornick and City Manager Scott Wolf for running the District 1 town hall when I was unable to join due to a family emergency. And I just really appreciate you guys covering for that. So thank you very much. Wanted to also do a proper one. I don't know how everyone was able to do it, but over in Solving with the haunted house and the corn maze and everything, it's just really neat to see how much the Valley's creating all these community events. So between that and Fall Festival, it's really just neat to see this investment in kind of these cultural building things. And I just thank to that partnership. I know that the Buellton Rec used to work with that, but Solving Rec has so we can give them their flowers when they need it now and then. So it's a really great event. And then thank you to Pam Nico and their organization for the veterans events that they put on both in Solving on Saturday and at the Veterans Hall on Tuesday, which I was able to attend. And it's wonderful to have these programmatic items taking place. 2 items I wanted to just kind of bring back for discussion. One is we had the chance, we've been having a lot of discussion about our affordable housing that's taking place in the city. And anyone who has followed along for this, it's really difficult to navigate criteria. It's difficult to navigate how to make it the most beneficial for our local community. And so one of the ways that that's come up has been exploring whether it's funding options, whether I know that Councilmember Hornick has brought up before a housing trust or things like that. But there are ways that cities can be more proactive to make affordable housing projects that come into the city, have it be more of a way to facilitate and help those locally living in the area. In the last 3 projects we've had, there's been a lot more of a mercy to the criteria. I know there's reasons for that. Bond measures have very strict criteria that you have to do, whether it's veterans or high healthcare users or seniors. But if we are starting to be thoughtful of how we could roll out a housing trust that would provide some flexibility within that criteria, it might be a way to actually make these projects more beneficial to our local community. So I wanted to see if the council could direct staff to start looking how that could be utilized and really just see if we can refill our quiver with other ways to make that. Outreach is great, and getting applications in hand and flooding the applications with locals is great, but we really saw that it's up to funding requirements for that. So if the city can be a partner in that, that helps us guide a little bit more of the allotment discussion. So I just would like to see if there's a way to maybe bring that back and what that could look like. It's in its infancy, but at least to get the conversation rolling.
If we have consensus of the council, we will do that.
I thought we were already looking into that.
Well, we were looking into, I think the city attorney had done some work previously on the housing trust. We would be looking at expanding that into other areas that he's referring to here.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, same. Yeah, of course. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. And then the only other one I had is, it's crazy to think that already coming up next year is 2026 and all of that takes place. And one of the ones that we always have in complaints with our elections that go on is just campaign signage that takes place and the rules and the gray areas and where they can, where they can't, right of way and all that. And so I think it's always best to do these types of things when there is no active election taking place. So I was thinking maybe it'd be a good time for us to revisit what campaign signage rules look like and kind of hone that in so that it holds anyone running for public office to the correct standard, but also lets residents have an expectation of where they can and where they can't and when they go out, and just making it a bit more firmed up, because in the gray area that takes place with our elections, it just ends up being people just like, how long do I have to look at us all trying to self-aggrandize ourselves? So I was just thinking maybe it'd be a good chance for us to have the city be empowered to close some of those loopholes and make it very direct. So I was curious if we could have staff explore a more robust plan to make it home.
We have the rules, why don't we just look at the rules? We have rules.
Well, we don't really have the most strong of rules that take place.
It's just people don't follow the rules. The rules are there. They know they have to. I know what day we put our signs out. I know what day they're supposed to be down. It's just an easy deal. But you don't need to have more new laws to do. Everybody has etiquette. And if they don't have etiquette, then they put their signs out early or they do something different or whatever. But there's already rules for that.
And no consequences for that.
And I would note that some of the rules we have in place are probably not enforceable at this point. We probably want to take a look at what our code looks like right now and how it stacks up from a constitutional sense, in terms of whether we can actually regulate things the way we are. And if we need to tweak it a little bit, we can tweak it a little bit. At least then, if we did that, I would know what is actually enforceable versus what is not, and we could have our own staff go out and pull signs that are not in compliance.
I used to do that. Anything on the right of way, I'd pull.
Sure.
Some people wouldn't put them in front of people's businesses that they would ask permission and put them, not just stick them somewhere.
Yep.
But that's
an etiquette.
Yeah. But there should just be etiquette and know the rules are. If somebody doesn't know the rules, they come out and make more. So why don't we just say the rules and follow the rules?
Yeah, I agree. I think that what I'm saying is that it'd be good to then have the policy. Actually, what are the rules? What are the enforceable rules? What can be required? What can't be required? I think that it gives us some teeth to hone in so that it's very clear cut what's going on. I think we just had the tree conversation of in the gray area of non-objective standards, it leads to subjective interpretations, which then leads into further discussion. So I think it just would allow our staff to actually hone this in. So if it's possible, I just think it's a good chance for us to have the staff review and see, like, maybe it doesn't need an update, but it might be a good chance for us to get that taken care of before we're in an open election season for anything.
I'm fine with taking a look at it. I think it's always good to revisit things that have been written in the past. And even if nothing, like you said, even if nothing changes, it's good to look at it again to make sure nothing needs to be changed. Sure.
And when someone goes in to sign up with Linda, I'm given their list of rules.
Yep. Have them sign it, and
this is what you're expected to do, and this is what day you can do this, and what's the day, how many days you can have your sign up.
It sounds like you'd like us to look at this and make sure it's all concrete.
It's already there. I say it's already there. You just that if people take the time to go find out what the rules are, they wouldn't be breaking the rules.
Well, I want to get to Scott's point, though. I mean, if some of this is not enforceable, if you have questions about the constitutionality of enforcement or what the ordinances are.
It's been a long time since they've been revised. Cases have come out, there have been changes, simple things like how much can you fine someone? What can you fine them for? How many warnings do you need to have before there's a fine? When you do pull them from the public right of way, you have to now give them a warning to come pick it up before you destroy it, things like that. So it would be good to revisit, revise it, and then, as Councilmember Sanchez said, have a list of the new rules to hand out to any candidate so that it's very clear.
Perfect. I mean, I think that staff would just do that. Do we need to make it an agenda item, or are you just giving staff direction?
I think direction would probably be adequate at this point to review. And if we decided something needed to be changed, we could just bring it back.
Then yeah, I think that needs to be done.
Any notes, Vice Mayor Lewis, or you're good?
No, I'd like to review it just for constitutionality and updating, but.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Moving along. Written communications. Do we have any written communications?
We have no written communications.
Everyone in the audience takes a brief relief for that. Committee reports. Does anyone have any committee reports? Councilmember Hornick, any committee reports?
I had a brief green tea meeting. I had to leave early, unfortunately, but I did want to say that the Thousand Trees Initiative is doing our tree planting at Oak Valley, which is delayed due to predicted rain this Saturday and is now next Saturday, 11/22. We are having volunteers. We are hosting donations. You can sponsor a tree, I believe. So the city put it out on social media. I know Eva Powers, who is present in the audience, is instrumental in that initiative going forward. So thank you, Eva. Thank you to Lisa Melby at Oak Valley. And yeah, hope to see you all out there if you feel like. 22nd.
22nd.
Hope to see you out there if you want to dig some, put some trees in the ground.
So just because there's some, so we are moving the 15th, the event on the 15th is moved to the 22nd.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Because of the rain. Oh, excuse me. I didn't see it. Yes,
Yes.
I get that. I get that. That's it.
Now you find your voice in that. Thank you. Okay, great. Councilmember Mead.
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Nothing to report.
Vice Mayor Lewis.
I had a very brief joint use facilities meeting. We were just kind of going over some language and shoring up the meeting of the minds. I don't think necessarily that we were 100% there with previous leadership and where we ended up. And we are clarifying some things, and I think it will make access to the facility a little bit easier for the average Joe wanting to rent the facilities. And I think it more accurately aligns the goals of both of the organizations in terms of use and access. So it was a good, super quick meeting.
Perfect. I attended the SBCAG Northern Sub-Regional meeting this week. And some of the main focus we're having right now is as Measure A funds are transitioning out from the 101 expansion, as we look to wrap that up in the next couple of years, North County projects are starting to kind of get lined up with that. And so we're just further identifying some of the things. A big one is just the corridor between Guadalupe and Santa Maria with a lot of the dangers that take place there, but we're also looking at how that can impact Mid-County as well. And at that time, we were able to speak with, it was actually brought up about the KOA study. I was able to chat with the Caltrans rep about how we have kind of done everything we as a city can do at this point, and that it was the most polite nudge I could give of we need to get Caltrans on board with doing that. So she nodded with the, yeah, I get it. I don't know how much more we can get out of her, but it's on the record and within the SBCAG that we are waiting on Caltrans to help us help ourselves. We just need to move along. So thank you to Rose for continuing to follow on that as we navigate the lovely experience that is Caltrans partnership. Welcome to the second decade of working through all these things, Rose. We appreciate your attention to this. So moving along, we will now move on to business items. We did it, everybody. We should just take a quick 20-minute recess just for fun. Our item number 7 is consideration of arts and culture project application, banner and social media outreach, Buellton.art for staff, and our staff contact is Recreation Coordinator Allison Fiery.
Good evening, Mayor Silva, members of council. I apologize, I have no information on trees, but I am here to speak on behalf of the Arts and Culture Committee to recommend funding for the Buellton Banner and Social Media Outreach Project. This project started in 2023 with a mission to transform the city of Buellton into a sort of outdoor art gallery for all to enjoy along Industrial Way and Highway 246. The City Council has approved funding for this project for the past 3 years. The funds requested would help to pay for 15 sets of banners, 60 pieces, 4 designs on each banner. That would feature art elements from over 70 community artists, ages 5 to 80, that would be displayed for 1 year. This project also has several outreach components, which the applicant can speak to in more detail. The committee has found this applicant to be very easy to work with. She has followed through with everything that she has said she is going to do, and we feel that the past year's projects have been very valuable contributions to the community. With that in consideration, the committee would like to recommend that this project be fully funded in the amount of $22,572. If full funding is approved for this project, the remaining budget will be $52,201 for the rest of the fiscal year. And that's all I have at this time. And then our applicant, Kristen, can speak to more details.
Perfect. Thank you for being here.
So yes, well, the only thing I would add is that we've gotten some really good press this time.
Just at the mic.
Oh,
there.
Caller. So we've gotten some really good press. We got some in January when we launched the new design, and then we just got some from KEYTV with the launch of the banners when the banners actually got up, and then we got the Travel and Leisure contacted us, so that we got mentioned in Travel and Leisure. And City Lifestyle would like to do a piece if you guys decided to go forward in January. So the outreach is working.
Well, we've got any questions for the applicant or staff contact at this time?
Sorry, Councilman Burr Hornick, did you have a question?
I said no.
Okay. I just have a really quick question. So I love the banners. They're wonderful. I just had a couple of questions about the process. So like it talks about this idea of like are you the one like making the art into the digital art? Like it just says like ended up about 1.6 hours per art piece. Some of the adult art was very elaborate. So are you the one doing all that?
Yes.
Okay. And so I was just wondering, just for your own preservation of time and money,
Yeah.
like are you changing the parameters of like what the art can be in order to kind of I mean, I know that you averaged it out this week, like you're doing like 1.3 because it was closer to 1.6. So I was just wondering, have you changed any of the way the art is presented to you to kind of just, I don't know, self-preservation a little bit, to be honest with you?
Not in that regard, but
Okay.
I have done one change is to clarify that no AI art
Okay.
can be accepted because we did have one piece though, zip liner, like that really looked like AI when it got submitted, and I really didn't feel good about that. So we were clarifying going forward, no AI. But as far as my time goes, no, I work until it's
You just do it
done. And if I get paid less, I get paid less. I want to get it done to the best of what we need. So.
Right. Okay. Well, that's wonderful. And thank you for doing that. 'Cause it's very kind of you. And I just want to, and also with this new, you guys are still going into the calling on all artist campaigns. You guys are still going into the classrooms in addition to all the other things that you're doing, because there's like a long list on there.
Yeah, about 5 or 6, usually it's about 5 or 6 classrooms each year. And I do the inspirational cartoon that they watch beforehand. So they get a kick out of that.
Yeah. And then have you picked a theme, or is it a big surprise?
I've been thinking, it was like dream forest or whimsical forest or something like that, but I've just decided to do like the blank forest because that way it allows them to think of whatever. Because I was just stunned with what they came up with this year. I mean, a lot of the stuff I was like, I wouldn't have thought of Sharknado. I would not have thought of that. So it's like genius. So that became like one of the sets. It was the Sharknado set.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks for your time and all the answers to my questions.
Councilmember Sanchez, any questions?
No, thank you.
Vice Mayor Lewis, any questions?
No, thank you.
No questions on my end either. So thank you.
I did just have one question while we were talking. So this is just for students, or how do we get the word out?
It's all ages.
Do we post on this? Does the city post about this?
Yeah, we put it on social media and it goes out through other.
These newsletters
other
and
outlets.
things like that.
It goes out through social media. It goes out through the water bills and posters and.
It's on the Buellton Buzz as well, I'm pretty sure.
By the newsletter, it's a whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just okay.
More newsletter.
Okay.
More newsletter. Perfect. Thank you.
Picking up what you're putting down. Got it.
And the water bill insert does really help us get the sponsorships. So the additional sponsorships.
For sure, but not everybody gets the water bill. They get it digitally.
Some do, yeah.
Ages 5 to 70, did you say?
80. At least that's what I know of.
Yeah.
But and some of the adult art is really, they're just as proud as the kids. So.
No, that's awesome. I know my kids are going to be keen to see it come through.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all we have for questions. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Any public comment on this item?
No, sir.
So we'll bring it back to discussion and a possible motion. And before anyone runs with a motion too much, I at least want to say some things, but I always have to wait because sometimes we'll jump in for a motion. So I just want to say, let's get through if anyone has discussion or public anything first. So anyone, Councilmember Sanchez, anything you'd like to discuss or add?
No.
Councilmember Mead?
I just want to say that the forethought of excluding AI art is very thoughtful. And I'm glad that we're trying to keep this like something that the kids are actually doing or the adults are actually doing and creating. And I'm thank you for being so thoughtful and being like, just making sure that the art is like what we want it to be. Thank you.
Councilmember Hornick?
Nothing to add.
Vice Mayor Lewis?
No comment.
So the only two items I wanted to discuss, one is I think if it's possible, it'd be really great if we could have the artists who are featured maybe brought before council at some point, just so we could meet who it is. I think that'd be a nice way for us just to get to know who's participatory, at least a few of them anyway. I think it'd be a nice way to just recognize. I think sometimes you have to be very vulnerable to put your art out there. Like I would never submit my art in any kind of manner. It's like, oh God, you don't want to see this. So I just think it might be a nice way just to tie that back in and just have that if possible. And the only other one I was gonna say is I appreciate that the Arts and Culture is looking to fund this again for the fourth. I think it might, between the mosaic conversation we had last time and then with this one, it might be worth for us to consider at least looking at how the arts and culture funding is done, because there might be a reason to separate or look at different funding models, because there's some things that we're kind of identifying as a council or as a commission that are longitudinal in nature. Like I don't see there being a situation where this is the year to call it on the banners. So it might be worthwhile for us to look at how that's structured so that there's funding that we set as one bucket that's for these kind of continuous projects. I think the mosaics have fallen into that a bit of we seem to have a desire to keep that going, these banners. And then there's the projects that are much more that 1 or 2 year one-off fundings. And so I'm just thinking it might be worthwhile for us to maybe look at it being one pot and another pot and making that funding a bit easier for that so that there's more liquidity. So I know that's not in terms of this, but long-term, I think we may want to take a look at that going forward because, I'm sorry?
I said I would agree and support that because I think there's 3 or 4 big ones we could think of, like you said, right now, that there's no need for them to fill out the application to use arts and culture funds when we know we want to do it, as a council.
So that we don't have a Brown Act problem, please nobody else speak on that. But I think the city manager hears you and will bring that back as part of the budget discussion.
Perfect. Thank you. So with that, would anyone like to make a motion in regards to this item?
I move to approve the consideration of arts and culture project application for banner and social media outreach with Buellton.art.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, great. So hesitant in our first and seconds tonight.
Vice Mayor Lewis.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilmember Hornick.
Aye.
Councilmember Meade.
Aye.
And Mayor Silva.
Aye. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you being part of this. Okay, moving along, we're now on to item number 9, general. Oh, and also just to normalize it, if you guys have been here all night, feel free to exit at any point. There's no obligation to stay. Item number 9, general plan update 2025 to 2050. I'm sorry, we'll start again. Item number 9, general plan update 2025 to 2050, augmented scope of work, approval of consultant contracts for Sargent Town Planning, Atlas Planning Solutions, Circle Point. And our staff contact is Planning Director Andrea Kiefer.
Right. Good evening, Mayor Silva and members of City Council. Back in September of last year, the city entered into a contract with Civic Solutions and their subconsultants for the preparation of the city's comprehensive general plan update. Staff is about 1 year into the general plan update process, working with our consultants and subconsultants. At the time that the RFP was prepared, there was a limited scope proposed by the consultant and subconsultants to do the work that is necessary to complete the general plan update. Since the initial RFP scope of work was prepared, several factors have come into play that have impacted the work effort that is required to complete the general plan. So there is now a need for additional ancillary technical studies and policy guidance. This is due to things like the Urban Growth Boundary Initiative, which was approved by voters in November of 2024. There's been new legislation that has been approved that is primarily applicable to our safety element and resource conservation elements. We also have some current and anticipated major development projects in the pipeline, particularly on key gateway properties and large infill properties within the city. We, after the RFP and scope and the contract was approved for the general plan update, we also established the ad hoc committee for I'm calling it the Williamson Green, but the 100 Hills site, and for future land planning for that. And so out of that, a request came from committee members that requires some support from our consultants, our public engagement consultant in the form of a public outreach survey that was requested for that. And then lastly, council previously had expressed a desire to prioritize median 3 design plans and improvements, as well as urban design and connectivity strategies to promote economic sustainability and small town character. So all of these new developments and priorities or items have made staff realize that there is a need to augment the general plan update services in order to look at the general plan holistically and completely. So currently subconsultants have, again, a limited scope of focus scope under the Civic Solutions master contract. So the following augmentations to the scope of work and associated budget are needed, and there are 3. So I'll go through each of the 3, at least an overview. So just to start out, Atlas Planning Solutions this primarily applies to the safety element of the general plan, has included a proposal, which is included as attachment two to the staff report. So basically, there have been two bills that have passed since the scope of work was prepared that directly relate to the safety element. This is bills related to extreme heat effects, as well as the fire hazard area, which you the council, are familiar with because our fire maps have recently changed. So there are requirements under the bills that apply to these that directly apply to safety elements. And so Atlas Planning Solutions has provided a proposal that would address those changes in legislation. So for the extreme heat effects, that would be a proposal would be for a little over $6,000, $6,125. And for the fire hazard area, there's some coordination that needs to go on with a couple of different agencies and then incorporate that into our general plan update. And for that would be $5,200. The next consultant would be Circle Point. So again, our public engagement consultant. Their proposal has been included as attachment 3. Again, with the establishment of the ad hoc committee for the Williamson Green, we got a proposal from them to actually prepare, manage, consolidate all the results of the survey, and do all of the public outreach and all of those sorts of things for that survey. So that proposal came out to $5,855. And then lastly, this is a larger proposal with a couple of parts, and that's Sargent Town Planning, which is the urban design subconsultant for the general plan. And this proposal is included as attachment 1 to your staff report. So there are 2 parts to this proposal, but overall the total proposal includes an amount of $50,000. So the first part would, and this is where, sorry, I've got some images up on the screen, so I'm going to start here with these. The first part includes what's that?
On one of the pages.
Yeah, it actually is included in the packet, but yeah. So the first part includes the proposal to expand upon the median 3 design plans that have been previously prepared. And this is basically, if you look up at the image here, you'll see what the idea is to expand the area that we're looking at and look at the median more holistically and as it relates to the avenue and connectivity and then to the median and the immediate surrounding vicinity within the downtown area. So he would be preparing basically a design concepts that build upon what has previously been done, and then look at the areas surrounding that and come up with some strategies for urban design and connectivity. The second part of this would be to prepare a connectivity plan that addresses how median 3, the downtown core, and the central area of Buellton is what we're calling it, how they all connect to each other and how and the rest of the city through these connectivity nodes. And then the third part of the first part would be to identify gateway areas, special study sites that are integral to the overall connectivity and community identity, and establish strategies for how to incorporate design features and enhance the community's overall connectivity and identity. So really just trying to take, there's some images that illustrate this that were presented by our consultant at a previous outreach event, but just really to expand upon this connectivity concept and really integrate it into the general plan and how we're looking at land use, circulation, and urban design within the general plan. So the second part, which would actually be a cost that would be passed on to private developers, private development projects for development projects. So this would be applicable to project sites that are within the areas that have been identified as part of this overall work effort as key sites for connectivity throughout the city. And what this would involve would be Sargent Town Planning serving as a consultant. So typically when we get a development project in, and no matter where it is, we have a list of agencies or consultants that we send our projects out for comment depending on their area of expertise. And this would essentially be adding Sargent Town Planning to that list of consultants that would be specific to projects that were identified in these connectivity nodes, these important areas, to review and recommend strategies and project design suggestions that would enable better connectivity, more holistic design image for the city, and basically be implementing a lot of this connectivity stuff that he would be working on for the general plan. there are a lot of projects in the pipeline currently. And so this is sort of an immediate, we don't want to lose opportunity with some of the sites that we have active development applications in, right? Or we know are coming soon. So we thought that, there's just a lot of development applications in, and some of these development projects are within those sort of key areas. And we want to make sure we can capture that when we're reviewing their development applications. So that would be the second part. But again, that would be passed on to the developers through the consultation process for their project. So that brings me to the total amount that is being requested this evening between the three separate proposals. And that total is $67,180. This amount was not included in the current budget for the general plan update, and therefore a budget amendment would be required to allow these work efforts to commence for fiscal year 25-26 in the amount. So the recommendation this evening is that the City Council authorize the city manager to enter into contracts with Sargenttown Planning, Atlas Planning Solutions, and Circle Point on the basic terms set forth in the attached scopes, and the associated budget of $67,180. Just to support the general plan update and related long-range planning efforts that the city is currently undertaking. That does conclude my report, but before I pass it to council for any questions or formal actions, I'd like to just briefly turn it over to Irma Tucker, our contract city planner, just to provide a little more context and potential future efforts that are not being considered this evening, but that factor into the overall general plan update process that we might be revisiting in the near future. So again, I'll pass it over to Irma, and then she'll pass it back to me.
If you could just go for a moment back to the previous slide, one more. Okay.
And Irma, just the microphone.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to take a quick look at this, and you're all familiar with where the urban growth boundary expansion areas are, but they're the orange ones in the northeast corner of the city, and then there's a little sliver in the middle there. So I just wanted to point that out. Because as we flip forward to one more slide, I just wanted to point out that the urban growth boundary feeds right into this northeast quadrant, and we have two major highways, major regional highways, and Buellton, as we're all aware, is at the crossroads of those two highways. So it splits the city up into four quadrants, like economic development areas. And we, at this point, have active development projects, either active in the pipeline or anticipated in the pipeline in all four quadrants. So, and the expansion of the city is in the northeast quadrant, and that is going to put more focus up in that area. So it's really important to take a look at land use planning and circulation. There's a close interrelationship with that, and economic development on how to promote sustainability, and because they feed on one another, and just put it into the context of where they're located and how people are going to get there. So well thought out economic development policies, comprehensive circulation planning are really key elements of implementing the citywide connectivity vision and our sustainability goals. All right, with that, just setting the stage for this. So currently we have the Cosmont companies and Associated Transportation Engineers, ATE. They provide technical and policy advisory services to the city on an ongoing basis. Cosmont is the city's economic development advisor. ATE provides traffic engineering services and other transportation planning related services to the city. Both of these firms or services also overlap with the general plan update effort currently underway. And their expertise actually is assisting city staff in preparing key documents for the general plan update and the related environmental review effort. So staff has identified potential need for augmented services from these firms as a result of the factors which Ms. Kiefer went through in detail previously, like the expansion of the urban growth boundary. And at this point, we are looking very closely at the land use and circulation assumptions, which need to be put into the general plan update for these areas so that we can portray the vision in this long range planning document. And then that supports the need as we go forward to see how we can implement that. So we're working on that right now. And as I mentioned, and Andre mentioned also, has been an increased level of current significant project applications and that are currently coming in and anticipated. These are on key gateway properties and large infill properties within the city. So all these put together have resulted in an increasing need for strategic long-range planning, technical coordination, particularly with Caltrans, and other regional agencies as well, and to ensure that we have appropriate circulation infrastructure and the economic development policies to support sustainability. So both COSMA and ATE have existing contracts and budget allocations that will cover a limited amount of the anticipated work effort, but we're in the process of determining what additional services may be needed. And depending on how that comes out, we would bring back refinement and augmentation of services and potential budget allocations for the two firms to be considered by the council at a later date. But we're really focusing on the implementation here and a holistic view and how to make it happen. So with that, I would turn it back to Ms. Kiefer, and I'm available for questions.
Yeah, so again, this evening we are just considering the three augmented service proposals from Circle Point, Atlas Planning, and Sargent Town Planning in the amount of $67,180. So that would be the recommendation that that the council authorize the city manager to enter into those contracts.
Concludes our report.
Right, thank you very much. We'll bring it back to council for questions of staff at this time. Councilmember Sanchez, any questions?
Yeah, the consultant for the 100 Hills area, we don't have any idea we haven't made any decisions on what's going to happen, who's going to do it. But we want to have a consultant hired to be.
So this particular consultant would only be to conduct the survey, so the public engagement, to basically survey the community to see to gauge what they are interested in potentially looking at for potential long-term future uses on that site. So just for that component, just the public, the survey.
Ad hoc committee was doing.
I can speak with it. Councilmember Hornick, feel free to jump in. One of the big requests from our first meeting with that was community outreach for surveying so that they could help qualify where the direction of the community would like to see this go and to help expand the scope so that as much feedback was solicited as possible. So it was very much from a community request to have this survey conducted so that we could have as much information for looking at longitudinal plans for that space. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Councilmember Hornick.
I guess I just didn't understand why it would relate to this agenda item. What was
I can answer this. So obviously what to do with the Williamson Green or the 100 Hills School is a very specific site with, but it does relate to the general plan because we do need to, it's a land use, it's a land use component of our general plan. So there are implications and it would inform and we would incorporate that into whatever comes of the survey and comes of the discussions with the ad hoc committee. The hope is that we would incorporate what comes of that into our land use element of our general plan. So it ties into it in that way.
I don't see it. What does that have to do with this agenda item? I'm sorry, I'm missing something, right?
We were talking about the survey.
Page 102, Circle Point, the community survey. It's specifically for the Williamson property. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, maybe. Oh, okay.
Circle Point community survey.
So Councilmember Sanchez was asking about that, and I was giving context of that was a request from our first meeting from the community outreach that we did, and they had the community request that, and then I was asking if you wanted to add anything on that.
Thank you for tying that in. Yeah, no. Yes.
No, I don't want to. All of that, and you don't.
No, I don't. I'm just gonna seconding what you said. As part of the ad hoc committee meeting, it's important to understand what the neighborhood and community in general want. And so if it's going to cost that kind of money, I think we owe it to the community to figure out what we're planning on doing with that space.
We don't even have any idea what everybody's going to come up with 100 ideas, the different everything, and we want to have $250 an hour to take a survey and find out what we ask questions about something we don't know what's going to happen.
Well, let's keep it to staff questions at this time, and then we
That's
can have.
why I'm asking her the question.
I think that's what's up for consideration this evening. That's why we brought it forward as
Yeah,
a
that's why I'm
potential.
asking what the need is to have consultants for something that we don't know what, and it's general plan. It wasn't in the general plan to have a library there, and now we have a library there. So what would change that?
What we're working on here is we've got a general plan update going on. And so the object of our planning department is to bring as much new information as possible into that document as it's prepared. So where we know we have potential future development issues, we want to bring that into the discussion and put it in the general plan right now so that it's addressed appropriately when that actually comes. With regard to the need for this, yes, we don't know what we're going to do with that site yet. We don't know what the community wants to do with it, but in order to help the community, in order to help the ad hoc committee and ultimately the city council determine what the community really wants to see there, the ad hoc committee came up with the idea of conducting a survey. Since we've already got this consultant working with us on public engagement through the general plan update process, it made sense to expand the scope of their contract a little bit to make sure that we got more than just a send it out on social media kind of survey. We want a legitimate, reliable, statistically valid survey to go out and tell us what the community sentiment actually is.
Yeah, and also part of that ad hoc was not just what the community wants, but what they strongly don't want. Right? That was something that.
Yeah, it was about guardrails and identifying what were the pitfalls to avoid and everything. It was really just the community saying that this would be a good way to facilitate the greatest amount of feedback so that as decisions are being made, you're right. We don't know what to do with it because we don't know what the community wants yet. And we're asking the community to tell us what they want.
I mean, we were up here, we received a lot of feedback from the community. They felt like they were disenfranchised. They didn't have a voice, they didn't feel heard. We started the ad hoc committee just to give that voice to the community. And part of that was not just the people that show up at the ad hoc committee, but to the whole community. So like we sent out a survey, so everybody.
Everybody in town.
Everybody in town, exactly.
Again, we don't even know there's options in the future to change the zoning there.
Exactly.
There's options to turn it back to 3 houses.
We're deviating into discussion. So if we can keep it to staff questions at this time. So let's keep it to staff questions.
Well, I guess my question is, I was wondering how this comes about that we're going to spend $6,000 for somebody to go do a survey. And something that is going to change in 5 minutes. As soon as somebody doesn't like what happens, they're all going to come and be in here saying they don't like what you did.
Okay, so is there any further staff questions you have at this time? It sounds like we're moving into a discussion item, and I understand we can get there, but let's just give all the council to get the questions for staff at least resolved at this time.
No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mead?
So you might not have the answer to this, but obviously, as I completely understand, you get involved in a project, then you obviously there's more project, right? And so I was just wondering, are we reviewing these contracts at like a 3-month period, and then it's like, or is it kind of like as it comes along? Like, do you know what I mean?
So what we're trying to do, and that's kind of why Irma addressed the Cosmont and ATE aspect, because we're trying to capture everything we think we could be coming to ask. Right now, obviously today we're coming with this ask, and then we might be coming with this, but we anticipate, because we also have contingency budget in the scope for the current contract. We want to keep that because, just things evolve as they go, but we're trying to capture any of these big ticket items that we think we might need augmented through this process tonight and with the additions that Irma mentioned.
Right. So, yeah. And then Irma, do you know when do you think you might come back with a secondary augmented for these other 2 services from Cosmont and the ATE?
So we're beginning the process of preparing the elements, and it's going in stages, and staff is getting together systematically to brainstorm policy direction for the elements. And we're going to be working on the circulation element next. We're also working on the land use element. we're also meeting with our economic development consultants to brainstorm with them. And we're having a planning charrettes on how to bring it all together in a holistic view. And then we're going to determine what's needed and what we have in the budget still left for them to work on. So we're picking away at it systematically.
Yeah, and just to your point, we're trying to, that's why we brought those two, because we wanted to make sure we're like, okay, let's
Try to
get
capture
everything.
like if we can get, if this is like 90%, that'd be wonderful, right? And it's like, well, okay, well, I'll give you more percent, Irma, don't worry. Okay, thank you.
And I would note, even if they've kind of captured everything right now, the way the legislature is going, they're throwing more requirements at us as we go. If they throw a requirement at us that hits before we're done, we'll need to incorporate that as well. The safety element is a prime example of that. Some of those requirements didn't exist when we started this process a year ago. So we'll have to respond as it hits us.
Okay, that's my only question. Thank you.
Councilmember Hornick, any questions for staff? Vice Mayor Lewis, any questions for staff at this time?
No.
Right, and then no questions on my end. And then any public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, bring it back to council for discussion. Councilmember Sanchez, I feel like you'd like to start that maybe.
Yeah, I understand that there's a safety concern and they change the rules and we have to catch up with some changing of the rules. But this spending money on something that we don't know where we're going to be in 5 years. You don't have any idea what's going to happen when it comes up. Then when it comes up, then we'll have to hire another consultant to give us some more advice on what that is. But it's a changing thing by the day, and
so can I speak to that?
You might.
Yeah, so I hear what you're saying. I'm not keen on throwing away money just to get public input. They're free to come and tell us what they want, right? But part of what I took away from that whole experience was the profound lack of feeling that they were involved in the process. We set up the ad hoc committee to help with that. Part of that ad hoc committee, though, is repeated by myself and also Scott Wolf and Mayor Silva. This is an iterative process, right? It's not going to be quick. It's not like, hey, we have this ad hoc committee, we turn around and we do whatever. It's going to take, we're looking at years, right? And we're going to change as we go along. But what is important is that the whole community feels involved and it has some say in what direction that site takes down the line. Keeping in mind, it's iterative, meaning that it's going to come in pieces that, hey, it's up. Right now, let's turn on all the green space. Oh, it's working. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? It could work. It could not work. Children's Museum could maybe want to take it over. There's going to be a lot of stuff that happens and we're all going to have to reassess as it goes on. But this will ensure that the community knows that their input is being accepted and valued and weighed. And I think that's incredibly important. And if we got to put a price tag of $5,000 on it, then you got my signature on it. That's where I'm at with it.
Member Mead?
I would just say that, the general plan is a massive investment in this city. And I think about, the idea that, your budget and the things that you spend money on are a reflection of what's important to your city. And quite honestly, I think this is a really nice balance because to Council Member Hornick's point, there's so much value in public input and this covers that. But at the same time, we need professional guidance to make sure that this general plan is the document that we are going to be happy with for the next 25 years. And so I like the fact that both of these pieces are included in that because I think they're both equally important. And again, it's a massive investment, but at the same time, I think it's an investment that's worth having because we need this general plan to be the document that tells us what the city is going to be like for the next 25 years. And to be quite honest with you, that has in my mind, a fairly large price tag because I want to make sure that we are being so thoughtful for this planning. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Lewis?
I echo what's being said. I think that I understand Councilmember Sanchez's frustration with the appearance of duplicated, efforts, but I think that having a neutral professional party do the research for us will help us when we are down the line trying to make decisions. And it also puts us in a position where we have documentation of all the outreach efforts and things so that we aren't in a situation again where the community feels like they weren't involved. So I understand the frustration with the feeling or the appearance of duplication, but I support having them do it for us for a number of reasons.
I just want to jump in and say, I'm happy the staff is looking at Sergeant. That was awesome. The last presentation, I was really impressed with. So happy that he's coming, or his team is coming back.
No, I think I understand there's a sensitivity of making sure that we're being judicious with financial implications and what we're spending our money on. And there's both this element of we're stewards of a budget, we're stewards of the land, we're stewards of the city with all this. This is what we're charged to do. Everything we've kind of worked through, we've had this discussion. We just had a whole discussion about how plans have not been updated since 1993. And I think that as we've teased things out, I mean, we had the water and sewer rate that took place. We've charged a lot of trust from our community members on working on things, and we've been finding out and fleshing out a lot of concerns. I think even when we just had our most recent planning and city council meeting, there was a big desire from both bodies to envision Buellton and be thoughtful and do this the right way. And I think that requires us taking some of these extra efforts. I think that if we're going to really be able to stand up here and say we did everything we could to be right by any community member, it requires us to not just enlist professionals, but to enlist the community's input. And I agree, we make ourselves very accessible. It's been a lot of work. I just have to thank you all for your town halls. Like we did that, and still people don't always show up to that. But we saw at that ad hoc committee, especially, there was a lot of charged emotion, and it's not from people who are looking to complain about Buellton. It's people who want to make sure that they're helping to have their voice part of where Buellton goes, and they want to invest into it. So I think it's a worthwhile exercise, and I think it really showcases that we took community input seriously, and we have the receipts to show that there was as much community involvement as we could for what this city looks like for them 25 years. So I think that this is a very responsive one. I also know that our staff is really, we've added a lot to your plate tonight. Just alone in this meeting, we've added a lot. And so it makes sense that you would need to add consultants to help with this, because we're making our staff that's very lean do a lot at once. And we keep asking for it to come back faster and faster. So it seems like it makes sense to me. And I personally, I motion to approve the amount resolution, or I motion to approve the city count, the total amount of $67,180 for the augmented scope of work approval of consultant contracts for Sargent Town Planning, Atlas Planning Solutions, and Circle Point.
Seconded.
Okay, Mayor Silva.
Aye.
Councilmember Hornick.
Aye.
Councilmember Meade.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
No.
And Vice Mayor Lewis.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving along to item number 10, informational item, cost options for extended library hours.
One moment, Mr. Mayor, let me get rid of the, there we go, and oops. All right, I think we're back. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the City Council, this item number 10 is an informational item only. I'm simply bringing this to the City Council because I intend in January to bring back a formal item for the council's consideration, but I wanted to throw out a few options. Sometime back in 2023, actually, the City Council established as a council priority the possible expansion of library hours to include Sunday hours. Now, this is 2023. This was brought forward as a city council priority. It is now late 2025. And by the time this comes to the council, it will be 2026. Since the 2023 action has taken place, we have started construction on a new library facility. We have had a rather protracted construction period. We have opened that library facility. We have had not one, but two different surveys of library patrons to determine what the actual or perceived public demand for additional hours looks like. And at this point, our library staff has presented us with a couple of different options. It is clear that there is interest on the part of the public in having Sunday hours. And it was not clear from the results of the first survey that that was the case, but the second survey dug a little deeper and did come up with that. What is presented here this evening are three different options. And even within those three options, there, at least in one of them, there are a couple of different levels. The first option provides minimal service, a minimal service level. The library would be open on Sundays, but it would be kind of a bare bones. The doors are open and there's somebody to help, patrons, but there's not a large amount of staff. We're not looking at programming on those Sunday hours or anything like that. It would be a very basic level of service. That can actually be done. The assumption right now is that that can be done for as little as $17,550 annually. Now we're still waiting for Goleta Libraries to determine exactly how they're going to staff the library moving forward. They're kind of in discussions with the three branches, the Goleta branch, as well as the Buellton and the Solvang branches, to figure out how they're going to space that out. But the latest number they came up with was $17,550 for that basic level of service. The second option provides a moderate level of service increase. It also includes better staff coverage throughout the week because they can share some time of a higher level staff person at different hours throughout the week, not just on the Sundays. And the salary and benefit cost of that second option is $62,350. The third option provides an enhanced level of service on Sundays and throughout the week, including additional programming and additional higher level librarian type services. The cost of this option, you'll know, ranges between $42,450 and $73,350. And again, that's going to, the reason that this third option with the enhanced level of service may come in less expensive than the second option has to do with how they plot out their staffing and how we want to proceed in filling that gap to give us the Sunday hours. So by the time January gets here, I'm hopeful that we will have some additional information from Goleta, and we will bring back a proposal with these three options, hopefully a little better defined for the city council to consider. But I wanted to throw that out there right now. I don't have a lot of background for you, a lot of answers to questions. I'll do the best I can. If you have questions, I don't need any action from you tonight. This is really to tee this up so that in January, when we come back, it makes a little more sense. But I did want to get something into the council on this before the end of the year, because as I mentioned, this has been a long time coming. So I'm going to conclude my report here. I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have. Again, we're not looking for any action tonight, just information for you and additional answering of any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Bringing it back to council for questions. Councilmember Mead, any questions tonight?
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sanchez?
And what is our schedule now? There's a couple of days it's closed.
I believe we're closed on Sunday and Thursday.
Thursday. Because it always bothered me that we have 2 days and nothing happens there.
Mm-hmm.
So with the larger amounts, with that, we were talking about adding Sunday. Is there a time that we would have 7 days a week it would be open or not?
We can certainly talk to them about that.
Stagger them. It wouldn't be the same people. But.
That I'd have to talk to them about. My guess is we'd probably wind up with at least one additional staff member beyond this that would be necessary to cover that. I'd have to talk to them about it.
And the cost of an additional staff member
it all depends on how many hours it's needed and what level of staff member it's needed. It's not a one size fits all kind of a situation.
And we do we know how many people are going now? Where we have to count every day? And
they have a gate counter. I don't have that report, but I can get a report for you and let you know what our gate counts are. Something that was really interesting to me that came out of the survey was that there's a large demand from the public for Sunday hours, and a lot of those aren't actually residents of the city of Buellton, but they're residents of the area surrounding the city, and they are the farms and the ranches in the area around here have family members and they come into town maybe on Sundays, and that's really their only day to access the public library. And if it's not open when they come out here, they don't have that access to it. So it was an interesting perspective that there are users of the library service that are not necessarily right here in town, and there a fairly significant number of responses mentioned that. So just a different take on the issue.
So are you gonna come back with a plan where, more discussion of?
I will come back with the plan in January with the three options, hopefully a little more fleshed out for the Sunday hours. If we want to investigate 7 days a week, we need to ask them to take a look at that as well. And that would, I can do that, but that won't probably come back in January.
I don't want to cause you any more work.
Oh, that's what I'm here for. You can give me all the work you want.
That'll be the last
I
one.
can only get to it so.
I appreciate it. Thank you for that report.
Okay.
No more questions.
Councilmember Hornick, any questions? Vice Mayor Lewis, any questions?
Nope, no questions.
Only one was just to be, it'd be great if there'd be a way to just get the survey results shared with us as well. Sure. I think that'd be a good, useful thing just so we have that context. But yeah, sounds great. Thank you for this, and we'll look forward to this coming in January. I guess, wait, is there any public comment on this? No. Okay, great. So perfect. We'll move along. Thank you so much.
Nice work.
Item number 11, resolution number 25-30, a resolution of the City Council of Buellton, California, establishing a policy for the acceptance and public disclosure of donations to the city, with staff contact Finance Director Chanel Zamora. Take it away, Chanel.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Before you tonight is a discussion regarding the city's process for receiving donations. Periodically, the City of Buellton receives generous offers, either monetary or in kind, to support city programs. At the moment, the city does not have a formal policy or a standardized process for accepting these type of donations. As a result, there is no consistent method for verifying the purpose of donations, issuing acknowledgement letters that meet IRS standards, or ensuring that the public is regularly informed about the donations to the city. To address this issue, staff is recommending adoption of resolution number 25-30, which would establish a clear and transparent process for managing donations to the city. Under Internal Revenue Code Section 170C1, donations made to a local government for exclusively public purposes are considered charitable contributions and may be tax deductible for donors. To comply with these federal rules, the city must issue proper written acknowledgements and maintain records consistent with the IRS publication 526. And the proposed policy ensures compliance with these IRS rules. The key elements of the proposed policy for accepting donations is that it creates a formal structure for accepting both monetary and in-kind donations. And it authorizes the city manager or a designated staff member to accept the donations that clearly serve a public purpose. It also requires that all of the donations be acknowledged in writing in accordance with the IRS guidelines. And as part of the packet, I included an attachment of how this letter will look that would be issued to donors. In addition, the policy also requires that a monthly donation report be presented to the City Council and to the public. This report should list all donations, including the donor's name, the amount or the value, and its intended use. And finally, it requires that the City Council approve any extraordinary donations over the value of $10,000 or any real or donations of real property. And then
To ensure financial management of these funds, staff is proposing establishing a separate fund dedicated to donations. This would allow the city to keep the donated funds separately from general revenues and ensures that the money is spent in accordance to the donor desires and intent, and also maintain compliance with the Government Accounting Standards Board. Once the policy is adopted, staff will work on a process to receive these donations. Once the donor submits their donation, we'll give them a receipt, we'll record it, we'll provide them with a letter so they can use for tax purposes, and then that will be recorded to city clerk, and then that would be, as I mentioned, reported monthly to city council. And then we could also post it on the city website to ensure transparency. There is no fiscal impact associated with the adoption of the policy. The donations will simply supplement existing city programs and services. This policy promotes transparency, consistency, and accountability while supporting community partnerships. So staff recommends adopting resolution number 2530, establishing the city's donation, acceptance, and public disclosure policy. And I'm happy to answer any questions city council may have.
Thank you very much. So questions for the staff? Councilmember Hornick, any questions for staff? Councilmember Mead, any questions for staff?
No.
Councilmember Sanchez, any questions for staff?
Would this also, if somebody wanted to contribute to the city, say somebody that has a service they give the city and they wanted to come and contribute their time to do public service for the city, or work?
That would be an in-kind donation. As long as we know the value, they can donate that. We just have to document it.
Right. And okay, I'll save my comment. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Lewis, any questions?
No questions.
I'll rattle off a few since I just sit in the space professionally with it. I just was curious, with the donations, are they intended to be held as current use or endowment? Have we gotten into that level yet? Or are we creating endowment funds, or is that an intention of this at all?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just no, love that. Okay, I just want to make sure in terms of staff time for administration, is that of any concern, or does this seem like a tenable process for our staff and finance to handle?
No, it's a very doable process. Our staff members already discussed it. It's as simple as creating the fund, and then as money comes through, we already identified that the use, we're going to assign it a project code. So then we're able to just track all these intended uses using that project code, and we can just keep track of it in the life of this fund.
Gotcha. So yeah, that leads to my next question: fund creation for donor intent. So it would be like, if I want to give $3,000 to put roses in the city, there'd be a way to handle that kind of thing that doesn't necessarily fit a budget line item, but you could track it that way.
Yes.
I would also just, will there be a thing too, if sometimes what happens is, like, let's say we do put $3,000 in for roses and it costs $2,997. Now you're left with a $3 thing. You just may want to make sure there's a clear out process in your policies so that you can clear out these funds. Otherwise it becomes an accounting nightmare. So just something to keep in the back of mind, unless you already have that policy in place or have something like that.
No, we have not thought about that yet, but it's something we'll keep in mind.
Perfect. And then will this allow for estate planning or like planned gifts? So you could have trusts that would be able to do that. So it's like, upon my life matriculation, are we getting into that kind of estate planning level too? Is that something that this covers, or no?
No, I would say that's a complete separate thing.
Okay.
We're just looking at money that people are donating that have that specific public use. And the reason this is being created, because I know in the past, people are not aware that you can donate to a city and it's tax deductible. So yeah, this gives them the opportunity to be more, I don't know what's the right word. Well, kind of persuades them a little bit more to donate to the city for these causes.
Which I guess then leads to my last one, is that with in-kind, that's usually arts or books. Does this allow for the space of land as a means of donation for that?
Yes, but in part of this policy, it does state that if it's any real property, it has to come to city council for approval. We just can't accept it.
Great.
As part of this policy.
Thank you very much. Any public comment on this item?
No, sir.
Shocking. All right, we're bringing it back to council for further discussion and a possible motion.
I had a comment. I just want to thank the staff. This is a wonderful idea because this will make people do things and contribute to things that they want to, promoted. And I know that in one of the arts projects, somebody offered $3,000 towards this for one of the projects. So I think that's going to be a big deal for a lot of people there to give money and to have the write-off. And but for future discussion is maybe an endowment, something that would go into a fund. I'm in the Vikings, and somebody just dropped $1 million on the Vikings, or $1.45 something last year, and it was a local guy here, and it went. But if we have that kind of a deal where they could drop it into and start an endowment, then that endowment would be directed to the discretion of the city council. So somebody would say, I want to give it to the city for betterment of the city, then we could say this is we would have discretion to spend those funds. And it's kind of a question, but that's something that we could do. I'm asking the lawyer, I guess, for the accounting, we could.
I believe that the requirement here is that the funds only be spent for public purposes.
Right.
Now, I also assume that if someone donates money in particular for a particular purpose, let's say someone came in and wanted to donate money toward the 1,000 Trees Initiative, we would be obligated to only spend that money on the 1,000 Trees Initiative. We couldn't then take it and donate it to arts and culture. We do have, arts and culture is probably a prime recipient of money that's donated. 1,000 Trees is already kind of looking for donations, and that could be it. But I think we need to treat it as restricted funds, not look at it as we can just spend it on anything public improvements or anything like that. We ought to look at the intent of the donor and then ensure that whatever we're doing is a purely public purpose.
I get what you're saying too on an endowment. There's a means of like a sustained funds that are like the interest off of that and that you can use that for kind of a maintenance of things in the future.
I was thinking more of like having a pot of money at the end of the year that we would say, well, we have, $100,000 has been contributed towards, and then we decide where it goes.
So we can,
as long as we don't go.
Yeah, we could look at that further for that. I would say that would be another item, because an endowment is managed very differently too from a current use one, with like you have to usually get there's a formula even how you handle that. But yes, I hear what you're saying. And so something worthwhile for us to keep exploring. I think that if we want to open that up, just gets a lot of staff time attached with that too. So just being mindful. But yeah, I
just want to thank the staff and whoever came up with the idea. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Councilmember Mead, any comments or?
No, obviously policies like this are necessary, and obviously if the city needs it, then we clearly need to have a policy. So I'm glad that the finance department has taken this on, and it seems like a great idea, especially the idea of project coding. So,
Councilmember,
I'm happy it's happening. I vote to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Didn't even get to you, Vice Mayor Lewis, but it looks like you don't mind too much. So
all good. I second.
Great. Okay, there we go. Sounds like we were all there. So we have a first and a second on the item.
Okay, Councilmember Hornick.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lewis.
Aye.
Councilmember Mead.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
And Mayor Silva.
Aye. We did it through item number 11, everyone. Moving on to city manager's report. Give us like 30 to 45 minutes of that. Why not?
Sure, no problem. All right.
Deep dive.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, City Manager's report tonight. I do want to remind everyone that on the council and in the public that San Ynez Valley Community Outreach is holding the Community Thanksgiving Dinner on November 19th, which is next week, I believe, from 4 to 7 at the Honda Middle School gym. If you would like to attend this meal, it is a free meal, Thanksgiving dinner. But in order to attend that, you do need to make a reservation, and you would do that by calling 805-688-4571. One more time, 805-688-4571. That's for the community dinner. Secondly, just a reminder, our next and final city council meeting for the year will be December 11th. Same time, same place, right here. And lastly, we have quite a bit of rain coming in this weekend. You're all aware it's falling right now. For those who may need it, sandbags and sand are available. The fire department has placed them out on McMurray Road, right across the street from Farm Supply. The actual address of that site is 670, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry, 760 McMurray. So if you want to Google that and go out and find it, we do ask that people limit their take to 25 bags of sand per location, just so that everyone who may need it can have some as well. And with that, I will conclude my report.
Wonderful. And then we'll move over to our city attorney as we go into closed session.
Sure. City Council will move into closed session under Government Code Section 54956.8, conference with real property negotiator. The property is 140 West Highway 246 in Buellton. Negotiator, city manager, and the negotiating party is Katie Burns of Jones Lang LaSalle. Thank you.
And Vice Mayor Lewis, if it's all right, in just a couple minutes, I'll give you a call and we can conference you in here.
All right. Well, then we will adjourn the open session at 8:51.